everybody. I gotta set this up here. Welcome to today's live chat and live auction results video. I do these videos sometimes when we do like a big clear out series, or I mean really a lot of people are curious to know what some of this stuff sells for, because you might have it in your basement. Or you might collect these things and have interest. Anyway, the reason why I do it is so you guys at home can watch and kind of see what some of the things I found went for, and hopefully it's of some use or some help to you. The auction is going to be starting here in just about a minute, so there's no auctioneer, so you're just going to hear me kind of talking in the background and chatting. I'll do my best to read comments at the same time, so if I missed your comment, you can ask it again. For those of you watching after the fact, if you ever want to get notified for these live feeds, you got to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification button. And if you're subscribed and you got the notifications on, then you'll know when these auctions are happening, when the live chats are happening. But hello to everybody who's joining us so far. Melissa is taking Abigail to her friend's house. Jason's going to a birthday party, and Steven is going to work. So everybody's out doing stuff, and I'm here doing this. So without further ado, let me get this spun around here. This auction is basically, oh, let's get that set up. Sorry if I'm giving you guys motion sickness at home here. There is a number of items through this sale. In fact, there's over 800 items. I can't make that any brighter. Well, that's as bright as it's gonna get. Kind of like me. I'm at maximum brightness right now. We are gearing up right now. Let's just see if I can refresh this. It should be going here any second. There was a lot of stuff that came out of this gentleman's house. We had, gosh, I mean, this is probably one of the bigger collections of toys, and especially video games and things of that nature. Oh, there we go. It's doing the countdown now. So first batch of items up is the Coup d'etat board game. We've got some of these other vintage board games and girder and panel sets. So price is very fair, you know, $7.50 Canadian. Let me switch that over to US. There it is. $5. So that's kind of what, when you see $7 Canadian, that's $5.52 US. So things are going for reasonable prices. So if a person is actually bidding in the United States and you want to get this stuff shipped, they will ship pretty much anywhere. But I'm going to flip it back over to Canadian and see where that's at. So there we go, the girder and panel sets. The auction has begun. No, there's no auctioneer right now. In fact, usually they have like a little bing, bing, bing. Oh, it's not making that noise because nobody's bidding right now. That's what's going on. Yeah, we've got a number of things going on right now. We've got, let's see, Kiki from Ireland. Hello. Hope you're doing well. Oh, this was a neat little set. I don't know if, I imagine there's still lots of people out there collecting these little Kodak sets. There were, 10, 15 years ago, I know even my dad collected these little Kodak brownie sets, and that's the photo developing set. That's pretty cool. Slightly newer girder and panel set, but fun little thing for your kids to do something other than play video games or be on the iPad. It's nice to have a bit of variety and have some stuff where they can actually be tactile and put things together. It's funny, you talk to a lot of people who are, in construction or engineers now, and a lot of them say it started off with Meccano and Lego and toys like that really got them interested in building and using their hands and doing stuff. So a lot of these sorts of toys are actually really good developmentally, and I think people forget that sometimes too. Our next generation of kids is going to have amazing high-end eye-hand coordination. Apparently they'll hopefully be able to talk better than me. They'll have great eye-hand coordination from all the video games, but might not know how to build or put things together. So it's kind of nice to see these little sets going up. Oh, we got a couple bids coming on the Construct set there. Those were popular in the 1980s, and I remember having those on the Christmas wish list when I was a kid myself. I don't think there's a way for me to adjust the picture quality much more. Let me see if I can make it a little brighter in here. Maybe that'll help. That help? I don't think that helped. Let me see. They missed somebody says, I missed the guy who talks like Porky Pig. That's all, folks. Yeah, so $7.50 the bid now, $10 on the robotic. That's actually a really cool robotic set. It's like a robotic dinosaur, and these things actually used to walk and move around. It's got the original box, $10. These are garage sale prices today. So we'll get a sense, we'll get an idea of what people are interested in from a sale like this today. But certainly the prices are incredibly fair. I'd say all around the board on everything. So even if somebody's a reseller, there's probably going to be lots of room. Let me just back that up a bit and see. I'm trying to improve the image quality. I don't know if that's helping it at all. That's the problem with having a I'm filming a screen on a screen so that I can get the audio here. But anyway, you guys get the idea. I'll try and center that a little bit too. Maybe like that. Something like this. It's a little something. Hang on, I'll go up a little bit. It is wintry outside here today. We did finally get snow. We had no snow the whole month. Oh, there we go. A little bit higher on the original 1977 Star Wars X-Wing fighter kit in box. In a likeness of Mark Hamill looking character there on the right-hand side. And current bid on that is 110. And off it went. See, here you go. I would never have thought the Calgary Stampede Chuck Wagon race game would have been 70, but that is a local piece, and that's probably going to have some local interest there. Calgary, of course, has the big Stampede that they do every summer. It's a big carnival, but they also do Chuck Wagon races and all sorts of things. It's a nice old Monopoly set. The very first set was just actually a small little box with the pieces and the board itself. And later they made the box big enough to put everything in. But still, that's a nice early set. In fact, one of the earlier sets there. Dave says, I had the C-3PO model when I was a kid. Did you build it, Dave? Was it on your shelf as a kid? I'm curious to know. I never had much of the... I did have model kits. I put together cars, obviously, because I'm a car guy. But... I never did get too many of the figures and things like that. Like you could get werewolves and monsters and robots and all kinds of stuff. And I never had a lot of that. I had a lot of toy cars. Robin says, you made great finds. I miss some of these toys. I'm 53 now and remember some of these things. Yeah, I remember them too. Operation was a lot of fun. That was always a fun game. $15 the bid on that right now. Let's see if it gets up to $17.50. I don't know if it's as easy to find some of the vintage board games now. Oh, Dave says, yes, he built it and then his cousin broke it. How long was it sitting on your shelf before your cousin broke it? And do you still not speak to that cousin to this day over breaking your C-3PO model kit? I guarantee that was like an awkward visit. The parents were probably downstairs having coffee and talking about life. And then there was a, Mom, do you know what cousin Petey did? I don't know what their name was, but I imagine, Dave, you weren't super happy with your cousin over that one. It's a nice little Spirit of St. Louis. Actually, that ends up being a fairly big kit, the Spirit of St. Louis. $17.50. Let's see if it gets up to 20. I like the graphics on this box. Charles Lindbergh, the first aircraft to fly non-stop across the Atlantic Ocean. I would have thought it was much bigger. Surprised it could fit in the box. Steve Martin says, hey, Alex, I've been watching your videos from the beginning. Love your videos. And Steve Martin, I love your comedy and your banjo playing. It's funny. I joke, but you never know when you have the actual Steve Martin on. So if he's a wild and crazy guy, somebody says, yeah. Not too many comedians putting an arrow through their head on stage these days. I feel like that had a moment in time. It's funny. I heard an interview with, I don't know if it's the Steve Martin that's on, but the Steve Martin comedian, and he was saying that a lot of what he did back in that time was performance art. And the reason why he stopped doing stand-up is that there was supposed to be a scene where this guitar came from the ceiling of the stadium and came down to him, and he was supposed to start playing. And it was like a visual sort of performance art comedy thing. And I think 2 days in a row, it didn't work. And on the third day, it didn't work. And he's like, well, I think I'm done with this stand-up comedy stuff. So some stagehand that couldn't figure out the guitar has to know that they're the ones that contributed to ending Steve Martin's career on stage there. My life changed when he made the movie The Jerk. Yeah, that was a pretty good movie. My dad enjoyed that movie a lot too. If you've not seen it, that's a classic Steve Martin movie too. Let's see, Hardy Boys board game, mystery game of the Hardy Boys. The mystery, what will it go for? $12.50. And somebody wanted the Screaming Eagles game. Britt says, Steve Martin, what a banjo player. Indeed, if you weren't aware, Steve Martin is like a world-class banjo player. Oh, if the lot number, somebody says, what does it mean that the lot number has passed? That means that nobody placed a bid at all. And so that means the item will be relisted at a future sale, and they'll decide where to put it. Any of the unsold or past lots end up going through to a different auction. And if it doesn't sell after a couple tries, then they tell me come pick it up. A lot of times we end up donating stuff to charity that hasn't sold. So we'll see what happens there. Vintage Risk board game, $30 the bid on that right now. Looking for $30 the bid. Let's see where we're going to be. And $30 off it goes to Florida. If you're bidding on there's a whole bunch of slot card track with the loop-de-loop and the whole thing. That's probably a fun little set. And nobody bid on it, so we'll try it again at another sale. Connects building set. When I was a kid, I auditioned to do a Connects commercial, and I did not get the role. And I thought, what a great thing that would be, to do I did a couple of commercials when I was a kid, but never did get the Connects gig. 1950s animal puzzle set, no bids on that. Here we go, the blow up your house, learn how to do electronics, $22.50 the bid, looking for $25 on the science fair, $150 in one. Years back, we were looking for one of these kits for Steven, could not find one. Now I've got one here. He's a little old for that now, or is he? But thought it'd be great to teach him about electronics. Here's a little Tyco Viper race car set. Somebody who's got a Viper might think that's kind of cool. And there it goes. Playmobil SO service station set. Yeah, that's a neat little piece. This was a special, I believe you had to mail away for this. When you went to the SO service station, you collected a certain number of points or you gave the money, and it came through the gas station and got sent to your house. And I remember getting one of those when I was a kid, and I thought it was the coolest thing because you could actually take the wheels off of the cars and really have a good time pretending it was a real service station. It had a little jack that actually lifted the cars up too. Eldon Road Race set, and it's got its cars, which are probably worth $30 a piece. So the cars alone are worth more than what this whole set is selling for, and off it goes. Another AFX F1 champion set, partial set, no cars, $750. So basically it's a lot of track, some instructions. If you need track and instructions, that's pretty good. When I was going through incidentally, that's like $5. That's $5 US. Let's switch it over. Yeah, $5.52 in American funds. So that's a lot of stuff for the $5. Anyway, prices are going low today, and here we are just a couple weeks before Christmas, or gearing up to Christmas here. This should be prime time season for people bidding on toys and collectibles, but I know that a lot of people are doing their shopping on online or with Amazon and so forth, so these sort of items will come back. Oh, here we go, $20 a bid on this, the 1980s Hot Wheels Crisscross Crash set in the box. I remember having that haircut. The kids got the typical, it wasn't like a bowl, but it was close. I think my mom said it was called the Prince Valiant when you went to so Mom, if you're watching, I forgive you for giving me the Prince Valiant haircut when I was just a kid. 1970s AFX Corvette Challenge set, no cars. So yeah, a lot of these sets, they're really cool. Like the graphics are neat. They're neat display piece. You can actually set it up and you can buy cars. That's not a problem. So for the $12, somebody's getting a deal on a lot of this stuff here today. So I often wonder if there's people who are resellers that bid on these items, because if you had a lot of this stuff, even at an antique mall, you could double, triple, or quadruple your money sometimes, what stuff goes for at auction. But Dave says, I had an AFX van race car slot set. Oh, AFX was the best. We had an AFX set. One of the places we rented had a basement, and we set up some plywood and had the set down there. And we had the semis and the Jeeps, and I think I can't remember what else it was. There was a few that had headlights that worked on them. And if you turn the lights off, you could see the headlights going around the track, and it was so much fun. Robin says, might be selling low, but it all adds up. Yes, it does. But this was not an inexpensive lot or assortment of stuff for me to buy. So today will be one of those days where I think I pretty well just break even on the whole deal. And frankly, I'll be happy to break even. I got a little excited thinking that all these old toys were in there from back in the day, and I got a little emotional and probably paid more than I should have for everything. But you don't get an opportunity to buy a collection that big that often, and so it was certainly a lot of fun to go through. Transformers set. There you go. Oh, you got to find the cars for it, but it's got the box. Transformers collectors from the 80s. Some of this stuff, oh, there we go, $12.50 the bid right now. Dave says, we set up the slot car set in our basement on an old ping pong table. It was great. Was your dad annoyed he couldn't play ping pong anymore? Or I think ping pong always seems like it's a good idea, and then it ends up just becoming like a storage or craft table. Right now, somebody said, what do you need to get even on everything? I think we are still a few $1,000s short overall from breaking even on what the auction is. So basically, everything has to get a few little bids here and there to kind of add up to get us our money back. But on the flip side of it, it helped the gentleman out. This would have taken him, he was in his 80s. He didn't feel that he would ever find time to clear all this stuff out himself. And so really an auction sale is kind of the only way to go. So I adopted the risk. But it's a good lesson to me to not pay so much, because sometimes you go and people are looking at, prices that were achieved individually on eBay maybe 10, 15, 20 years ago at their height, and you're not going to see that type of dollar replicator. If you do, you got to spend a lot of time on trying to resell the stuff yourself. So for me, it's worthwhile just to kind of get out of it. That was a lot of work to make absolutely nothing, I will say that, but it is nice to know that we got that guy's basement and his garage all cleaned up for him. And sometimes that's worthwhile too. And plus I got to spend time with my boys. My boys helped me out. But I can't make buys like this too often. And you don't want to seem like you're being cheap, but when you see the results coming in from what things actually sell at an auction like this, you have to be a little more frugal. Somebody said, I saw a comment there that said the prices would be much higher on eBay. That's true, but I'd have to sit on this stuff for who knows how long. I'd have to accommodate for my time. I'd have to accommodate for, that's weird. I don't think I had two of these sets. Maybe I did. That one's got tape there. Did that one have tape? Nope, I guess I had two of these sets. Okay. So your time is definitely something you have to factor in, because time and fuel and energy and effort and all that stuff. So here's a little Barbie set. Somebody said, I got a comment earlier saying there was a Barbie that I found, and it was one that when she was all done up kind of looked like a Janis Joplin. It was like a rock and roll sort of Barbie. So we'll see where these land and where these go. Interesting artwork on these Barbie trunks too. Charlotte Stevens says eBay is hard. Yeah, eBay is, I think, good for really specific things, but I know I've been asked, do you sell on eBay? Yes, I do have an eBay account, and occasionally I do put things on there. And certainly some of my own stuff that's a little bit more on the collectible side, I would probably, like if I had high-end Hot Wheels toy or something, I wouldn't put it here through this sort of auction. I would probably put that on eBay or just sell. Actually, I've been doing better selling individually on just Marketplace or through groups on Facebook. So, yeah. Oh, there we go. 1970s Lego set number 9, and it's complete with its box. Incidentally, when you see these auction stickers, I recommend using a hairdryer and heat them up a little bit, and then they'll just come off. If you just try and pull it off, not great times, especially on cardboard. Unfortunately, they require that the things be stuck to the object in one way or another. There we go, another little Lego kit, number 55 set. And this is early Lego when they didn't even, remember those old Lego figures? They were giant. They were just basically like a head, like a torso. This is an odd sort of batch, but it's sealed vintage floppy disks that have never been opened. Where else are you going to find a bunch of floppy disks other than right here, right now? 6 seconds on the clock. Current bid is $30. Will it go any higher than that? Kind of neat. Oh, here's a bargain. 1980s Hot Wheel construction playset, $10 a bit, has jumped from $7.50 to $10. Looking for $12.50. That is a bargain and a half. That's a great little playset, even if you're looking for something for your kids to play with. These sets are fantastic. Oh, I missed a super chat. Thank you to whomever sent that. I was busy looking at the other screen when that came up. Here's the 70s Hot Wheels auto service playset. Somebody's gonna be quite happy getting these things for under 20 bucks. When you see them at an antique mall, they're 40, 50, $60 for something like that. So what is 10 Canadian dollars in British pounds? It is £8. Is it really? I thought our dollar was farther apart than that, but I guess not. And in US, oh, well, that's currently at 11. Oh, I guess people are bidding on stuff right now. So in Canadian, that's 17. So yeah, it's quite a bit less. Oh, the radios have not sold yet. Thank you to my wife, Melissa, who is on the ball and read the super chat to me. The radios have not sold yet. Those are going to be coming up later in the auction. There's also a whole pile of vintage comic books and other assorted neat things. So thanks, Melissa. And thank you for the super chat for asking that question. Always appreciate those. Here's a nice big batch of Matchbox toys, and there are a lot of people who do repairs on these, easy to paint and clean up. In fact, I've got a little fix-up video coming later in the month for a very special Hot Wheel toy that that we have, but that's like $5 US. That was a bargain. Some vintage Atari computer games with their boxes, Flight Simulator and Zaxxon with its instructions, it looks like $12.50 Canadian on that. Now 15. I know we have a lot of people that are watching from the United States, so maybe what I'll do is I'll switch this over to US for a little bit. So $11 in US funds. I see the mother of all vintage car auctions coming sometime in the future. You mean like for my cars? Or do you know of a car auction? Either way, I'd be interested. Helen says, it's awesome the way you're thankful for little things during these sales. Hope you make lots of money. Yeah, I don't think this isn't really a sale where there's going to be much money to be made. Again, at this stage, I'll just be happy to kind of get my money back. I wanted to offer the fellow a fair price, but I kind of offered him. It was one of those situations where he had investigated all of the prices maybe 10, 15 years ago at what the highest was on eBay. So he'd see that like maybe one of these Viewmasters sold for $30 15 years ago. So he'd say, okay, well, that's $30 times 6. So that clearly that lot is worth like $250. And I'd try and say, oh boy, it's probably not going to go for that. And so I offered less than what he was hoping, but still I didn't offer low enough. And I kind of didn't want to insult the fellow, but at the end of the day, I probably should have maybe walked away, although it was a lot of fun to go through. I'm not complaining. I'm a grown person, and in this business, I guess I'm just being honest. In this business, you don't know. You might have one item that ends up being worth a whole pile of money, and you might end up buying a bunch of stuff that takes a lot of effort. And there you go. Somebody said, "Oh, I'm getting the put it back to Canadian." Okay, all right, there you go. That was just a little thing that was in with this lot of 1960s Canadian Strombecker race set. The Canadian road racing set. So that's a Canadian only edition, $15 on that. And if you collect slot car sets, I think we're getting out of the slot cars fairly soon and into some of the video games in the next little bit here. So stick with us as we kind of go through. Yeah, somebody said, for instance, like the Beanie Baby doll. Yeah, you never know. Patricia asked, what about the radios is you had over by the Macintosh and the Crowley? I'm not sure what you're asking. What about the radios you had over by the Mac and the Crosley? None of the radios have sold yet, Patricia. So there's still a ways to go before we get to, the Crosley radio. And I think that I actually hung on to the Crosley for the time being. I don't know that it's at the auction. There probably are some Crosley radios, but the dashboard are the really cool one. I might have just kept for the time being. So there are lots of radios coming up. This collection was mainly vintage computers, vintage video games, slot car sets, and radios. It was an odd and interesting assortment. The TurboTrax jump set. I can tell that's from the mid to late 80s. It's got the super fast sort of wheels there. There we go. An Eldon Super 100 set. And it does have all 4 cars. For anybody watching at home, those cars are probably worth $25 to $40 a piece. So times that by 4, you can see that this set is going for well under for what just the cars are valued at. So somebody got a great deal there. There's gonna be a lot of happy folks. A message there says, I can't believe your stuff is selling for so cheap. You ought to try selling it in America. These guys ship everywhere. That's the thing, is that technically I am selling to anywhere in the whole world right now. It's just a matter of what people are doing today and whether they're logged in or not, and what they're willing to pay. I would suspect that this auction is probably attracting a lot of people that are into the old video game stuff. There's a lot of really rare computers, video game equipment, controllers, etc., that you really are not going to have. You're not going to have a lot of options on finding it elsewhere. So I think today is good. So Arcade Mania electronic video game set. That one sold $15. Here's a Nintendo DS, something a little bit newer, but it does have some games in a case. It's sort of a neat case. $50 is a bit on that. You can kind of see the slightly newer stuff. Newer video games are still really popular. They always sell relatively well, but again, you know, on a sale like today, you never know what people are going to be bidding on. I also don't know what sort of efforts the auction put into advertising the sale. I know I did see them putting some ads up on Facebook and stuff. They, you know. So we'll see how things end up going. Is a little triple beam balance scale, handy thing if you're in need of weighing something. We had an Intellivision when I was a kid. Lots of fun games. Yeah, Intellivision were great. Did you find anything to keep, Alex? No, not. Did I? No, I just kept some little like. There was an assortment of like spare tires for Corgi and Dinky toys and car parts. I kept that, but really I didn't really keep much anything else out of this collection. Pretty well everything is off to auction. $20 now bid on the balance beam scale. Looking for $22.50, $20 the bid right now. Looking for $22.50, $20 last call, $20 the bid. Where are we going to be? How have you been weighing your stuff now? You need this scale, $20 a bid, and off it goes. Pair of antique clamps on wood spools. I imagine, I don't really know what that would have been used for, but somebody knows. Amy Nunmaker, she knows, in Pensacola, Florida. She's like, I've just been looking for that. Melissa got a fire truck. Oh yeah, Melissa did get a fire truck. Yeah, we gave the fire truck to her preschool. Apparently it's been really popular. Melissa can probably elaborate a little bit. Dust Production says you need to promote for upcoming auctions. I didn't know the auction was happening. Every single video we did of unboxing, we mentioned that the sale was happening. Plus, I've advertised on Facebook and YouTube that the auction was happening. So I'm not sure how much more I probably could do. Mind you, if somebody is watching right now and they're on the live stream and they go, oh, heck, you can actually log on to Casters and bid right now. The Woz computer is up, yes. Shout out from California. Why didn't you sell your Mustang down here in California? Well, actually, I did sell the Mustang on Bring a Trailer, which is a US site, and it did go to California. So I did sell it on an American site, and it did go to California. So I'm trying my best to list and advertise these things, folks. Sometimes it's not easy, and also the market is a little down right now. Gosh, like the antique furniture market is really depressed right now. I mean, not that it's sad. I imagine people are sad if they have a lot invested in it, but antique wooden furniture, I won't even really touch anymore. It's just not even worth it. Beautiful pieces of antique furniture that would have been, thousands of dollars 20 years ago are going for like 60, 70, $80 at auction. It's just not even worth getting into that stuff at the moment, unfortunately. I don't think a lot of people are decorating with the old style wooden furniture. I know somebody on here is probably going to say, I do, but you might be in the minority. That's not the aesthetic. Brown furniture, yes. Mid-century modern teak, as Bear the Hardcore Picker says. He says it's MCM that's hot. And MCM has been popular for a while, and I think that it's just very clean lines. It's brighter. There's a lot going on. TJ's Woodworking Shop is very excited to be here. Thank you for joining the live stream. Steve Martin says, I'm snatching up the old stuff. Great deals. Good. I'm happy for you guys. In fact, the deals are rampant and readily available. So for everybody who's watching right now, you can log in and place your bids if it's live. If not, then you saw it after the fact. Cryptech says it's a matter of whether you can store everything too, and that's true. Okay, here we go. $15 on the reel-to-reel set. Those are pretty neat. Reel-to-reel are interesting. We're getting into some electronics and stuff. Oh, Marcus says, I'm logging in to bid for the video game stuff. Good. That's going to be coming up pretty soon here, I think. And there's a lot of old Atari and television. In fact, we basically made the auction house look like a 1980s video game store. Original Nethead says, furnishing your first place, buy a Victorian, tougher than nails, too heavy for kids to pull over, and it's selling for pennies. Yeah, that's true. I mean, you can actually get beautiful, nice antique furniture for less. Debbie Brady says, don't forget to tell them that if you bid on a whole bunch of stuff, then they'll put it in one box and it'll save you on shipping. That's true. Unlike when you're bidding on a bunch of stuff on eBay that gets shipped individually, on this, with an auction like this, the more you bid, the more they will try and consolidate into individual boxes and get it out to you. So yeah, I guess what I'm saying is if you're going to bid, you may as well buy a whole bunch of stuff. I had one of these Fisher-Price record players. I think I mentioned that in the video when I found it, but I remember listening to probably some of the first music I went and bought at garage sale was like Fleetwood Mac and the Kinks and Led Zeppelin and stuff. Listening to it on a Fisher-Price record player, a young, 8 or 9 year old version of myself. But you had that sense of freedom and watching that record spin around and listening to your first albums. Gosh, that was fun. It makes me feel like putting a record on right now. A good place to sell video games is Whatnot. I know I probably need to try Whatnot again. I do have a Whatnot account. The problem is I really don't have, I should make more time for it, but I don't have a lot of time to do shipping, nor to find boxes and packaging and all that stuff. And when you're fairly busy and fairly steady, gosh, that's a terrible picture. They didn't even show any of the stuff that's in that box. They just, oh well, I guess it'll be a surprise to whoever gets it. There's all kinds of stuff in there. There is an aspect to Whatnot, which is the shipping and packaging and all that I'm not a big fan of, but that's just because I generally don't like to ship and pack stuff out. Patricia says, okay, Cousin's notified about the radios. Hopefully he comes online soon. I hope so too, because you don't want to miss out because things are going really, really cheap today. Marco says, no PayPal on the auction. No, darn it. Yeah, I don't think they do PayPal. There's multiple ways to pay them, but I don't think PayPal is one of them. You can actually, if you have a Visa debit card, I think you can enter that in and they'll accept that. Box of assorted vintage magazines. Oh, nobody even bid on that. Old Fisher-Price music toys, the little music boxes and the music television set, $22.50 Canadian the bid right now. Yeah, Alex could make a killing if he sold his stuff in the States. eBay still gets good prices for things. I have to say, this is technically selling stuff anywhere in the world. It's just a different platform. And so this is me offering it to the United States or to Canada or whatever. But the problem with eBay, again, is the warehousing, storing, shipping, boxing, all that kind of stuff, which I really... Woody says, I won the mystery box. Good. Hopefully, at the prices things are going for, I don't think you're going to lose out on any of the stuff here today. Boy, it got really bright in my office all the time. I'm just going to close the window. or not close the window, close the curtain as I'm being blinded here. Patricia's out building a little patio with a fire pit. That sounds nice. Nice activity for today. Antique Kodak Photo Lab set in the box, $25 on that. Feel like we're getting through a bunch of the stuff. Consigned 50 lots in late November live auctions. Good stuff sold for pittance was disconcerting. Yeah, I have a friend who deals in antiques, and he will sit on things for decades if he doesn't get his price, because he sold at auction once and things went lower than he was hoping. And so he, yeah. I know. I do wish that Kastner did take better pictures of things. Like with the hats here, they just dump them out. Like no organization, no hat stands, nothing. I know that they only have like 1 or 2 photographers that do their stuff, and they're probably overworked because Kastner does, I think, almost a sale a day. But still, yeah, when you have a selection of things, sometimes it doesn't hurt to lay things out. Like in this box of books here, $7.50. There was an original book by Gordie Howe in there, which I'm sure some hockey collector would have loved to have seen. But I guess, we'll keep plugging away here. Large lot of vintage radio repair books, $40 on that. That's going to be a handy thing if you want to learn how to collect or repair radios. Free Speech Zone USA says, hey, Alex, finally caught you on a live. Thanks very much. Yeah, I know there's a way to stream with my laptop and my PC. I've got to figure out how to do that. To be honest with you, I've never really done it. So I've got to figure that out. Jeannie says he likes it this way. No, not necessarily. I don't necessarily like it this way. I know that there's a way to screen share and to do it, but the challenge was that I wanted to get my audio as well as the audio from the auction at the same time. So I don't know. There's always a workaround. This is kind of just the way we're doing it right now, and I apologize for the quality here. Oh, look, you can see my shadow. I can do hand puppets. Wait, oh, he needs an ear. There we go. Nobody knows what I'm talking about. Hello. Oh gosh. Yep. Anyway, I'll keep myself occupied here in the corner. I'll go sit in the corner. That's where I belong today. Yeah, just basically everything that I got from this sale, or from buying all this stuff, is here at the sale today, including, a box of golf balls. Well, heck, what am I going to do sitting on a box of golf balls? I will tell you this. There is nothing more exciting to me than getting my house emptied after buying a big collection of stuff like this. It's a really good feeling to have your house clean and empty of stuff. And so, that should say Sesame Street. That's a whole bunch of Sesame Street figures and cars and the whole thing. Nobody even placed a bid. That's surprising to me. What they'll do at the very end is they will put the items that didn't sell at the very end of the sale, and then we'll see if we get bids on that. There's a bunch of antique sheet music going through right now. Let's see. Would Kastner let you provide photos of your listings? They might. I mean, I'm kind of paying them to do this service, and generally, like this one, I'm not unhappy. I'm basically pleased with 85% of the pictures they put up. So, when it was a bigger sale, like we did Mary Borgstrom's pottery, I took all of those pictures myself in a photo light box. I did professional photos of those, and we basically took everything, all the pictures we had. I took all the pictures for that sale myself. But other than that, no, generally they will take their own pictures. Yeah, you can try changing your settings to 720p or higher and see if maybe it comes in a little bit better. A lot of 1888 books, some antique books there, $7.50. That's $5.50 US for some nice antique books. $7.50 the bid. Going to white chocolate. That sounds alluring. There's some antique and vintage books, a whole box of them. Look, you can have it for $7.50 for the whole box of them. all those great books and all that good reading. Here's the Playmobil figures, and actually the second picture shows just how many figures there are. Look at that. That's a massive pile of stuff right there. Let's see. Oh yeah, write another book, someone says. That one was more of like a coffee table book. There wasn't a lot of writing, and I wish I would have taken more time to do a bit more writing for that book. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe down the road. Right now, it's definitely not a priority. 1980s constructs building toys. There's 2 cases of those. There's the 80s Cabbage Patch dolls with a whole pile of extra clothing and shoes, accessories, and so forth there. $22.50 the bid right now. Dave says Playmobil are good quality. They are. And actually, if you've gone to see, I feel like Playmobil is being made for adults now, because I went to a store and they had like the Back to the Future car and the A-Team van and a Mercedes 300 SL Gullwing, which is definitely on my list of aspirational vehicles to own someday, in Playmobil. And they're not cheap. And I'm thinking there's no way you're buying that for a kid. But Denise Beale says, are you still going to do the TV show? As far as I know, I am. They haven't told me otherwise. I think we're just waiting for it to not be as wintry outside right now. And yeah, it's I think they're aiming for spring, summer to film. So we've got a little ways to go. But yeah, that's the goal, is still to do that. There's a little Hot Wheels rally case with the original packaging. That would date to the 1980s from the looks of things there, or maybe early 90s, $12.50 Canadian. That's about $8 or $9 US, and it's still new in the package from way back when. We've got a variety of Tonka trucks coming up here. Oh, Jeannie says, my brother had one. Incidentally, if you are watching and you have a Hot Wheel case full of old Hot Wheels and you want to sell it, you can email me. I do buy old Hot Wheel cars. Hang on, let me give you an idea. Oh, where do I have one? Hang on. I'm getting something. If you're watching at home, I buy stuff like this for myself. These are Hot Wheel Redline cars. So I've got a little case of them here. So if you are at home, they are generally kind of sparkly looking, almost like a Christmas ornament. They've got the little red stripe on the wheel. I will buy these. So if you want to sell me stuff, you can look through your Hot Wheels toys and look for the Redline cars. And I pay what I think is fair money. I mean, if I've proved it by my complaining for this auction that I basically paid retail for all this stuff. Not that I want to do that all the time, but I am buying, yeah, there was a CUDA in the case. Yeah, I am buying, oh no, was there a CUDA? No, I think it was a Camaro. You're talking about the green one, right? Oh, no, there's I think a King CUDA in here too. Oh yeah, it's fun to look through this stuff. Yeah, it's a little Hot Wheel cars. Alex buys. So you can email me at curiosityedmonton@gmail.com. Things I'm always looking for are vintage high-end wristwatches. I'm looking men's wristwatches. I'm looking for Hot Wheel toys. I'm looking for coin collections, stuff like that. So I'm still actively buying. And if you're in the Edmonton area and you got a whole pile of collectibles that you want rid of, I will come to your house, and as you know, we'll buy a whole bunch of stuff, and we'll try and be as fair as possible with it. So there's some nice vintage metal Tonka grater going there. It's jumped from 20 up to 35 already. $35 a current bid. Looking for 40 now. 40 looking for $45. $40 a bid. Tonka will outlast all of us. It's a weird thought, but it will. $45 a bid on that. Now looking for 50. This is when toys were made to last. That thing could be sat on, pushed through a sandbox, dropped off a cliff, and you could still play with it for another 150 years. They're pretty well darn indestructible toys. So anybody buying something like this, just give it to your kid to play with. I mean, these aren't pristine. Some of them are collector's items, but there are people who will restore these as well. So Tonka always does sell generally quite well because they're such a well-made thing. Gary Fixler's on right now. Too much of a completionist. Got to catch them all. Tonka toys are tougher than some real cars. Yeah, I have a distinct memory. Oh, John says, are you looking for absolutely mint red lines? Well, yeah, I would, but I would also look for any red line in any condition. So they don't have to be, they could be rough, they could be good, they could be bad, doesn't matter. I will buy any red line Hot Wheel in any quantity. So if you've got any, email me, curiosityedmonton@gmail.com. Same thing if you've got like old, I know it sounds a little bougie to say this, but if you've got old Rolexes, old Omegas, nice vintage wristwatches, I do buy those as well. Those are things that are of personal interest to me, that I do buy, sell, and trade. So something to keep in mind. Yeah, old Matchbox toys, Corgi toys, like the Batmobiles and James Bond cars and stuff. Always into that too. I was saying that I had a Tonka Jeep, and it had T-tops, or maybe it was like a Bronco. Anyway, it was fairly big, and you could put G.I. Joe kind of size figures inside of it. And I remember riding that thing down the hill, like sitting on it and riding it down the hill, and it had wheels on it probably about that size, and it did fine. I rode that thing around for like probably a good 2 or 3 years when I was a little guy. Heck, I'd even try it now. There's nothing that wouldn't stop me from trying to ride a Tonka truck down a hill at this age, at 45. And yeah, that it was still in excellent condition. I think we sold it and went off to another family that they continued the tradition of playing with it. Here's a little Structo steel emergency vehicle. I wish they made toys to last now. I mean, although kids don't really even... Do they still play with toys? I guess at a certain age they do. I know Melissa's preschool, they play with toys. And yes, Jeannie, the Barbie sold about 20 minutes ago. I missed that one, unfortunately. But there's lots of other good stuff coming up for sale here. $20 the bid right now. Look, I'm trying to have my Jeff Goldblum auction voice. Wow, vintage Tonka tracked backhoe digger, where Jeff Goldblum is just kind of excited about things mid-sentence. Vintage Tonka tracked backhoe digger. Oh, it's space-time continuum. $40 is the bid right now. Looking for $45 on that. $40, but that one's actually in really good shape. $40 on that. That's like, these things will last forever. There we go. 1960s Tonka snorkel. You can tell the earlier Tonkas have the white wall tires like this. That would be probably mid to late 60s. So generally a little bit more on the collectible side. That one has original paint, original decals, or in Canada, in my area, they'd say decals. $22.50 the bid right there. Yeah, somebody was asking about Beanie Babies. Heck, I don't know what to think anymore. They were mass produced. They were one of those things like in the 90s, where they said it was collectible, and then really they'd make 1 million of them and say that everything was collectible. But there's people who, out of nostalgia, kind of remember that, and now they're buying them back again. Virginia says that was a pretty good Goldblum. Yeah, he's funny. He just kind of gets excited about certain things at certain times. Jeff Goldblum. That's I don't know. 1970s Tonka fire truck there. It's when I start doing my auction voice, it always reminds me of Jeff Goldblum. $17.50 the bid right now. $17.50, looking for $20 on that. That's gotta go under the Christmas tree this year. That's exactly what you imagine to be under a Christmas tree. A big fire truck with a big ladder. $20 for the fire truck there. Phil from Kansas City. I still have that coin-operated game that I bought from you. That's great. Did I crate that up? I feel like I built a wooden crate and mailed some things out when we had our shop a while back. So. Yeah, Melissa's giving the advice of checking completed listings on eBay, and then you actually want to filter by sold. That gives you an idea of what things actually have sold for, not just what somebody's asking, because you can go online and people can ask whatever they want. And in some cases, they actually try and... there's a trick on eBay, and a lot of you probably know this, where somebody will ask $1 for something worth $1,000, but then so they sell it for $1, but your shipping is $999. And the reason that they do that is that eBay takes a percentage of the sale price, but not of the shipping price. So it's kind of a way of them trying to skirt the eBay fees. So you kind of have to use some judgment when you look and see what stuff is sold for, what people are asking for things on eBay. But generally, you can go to eBay and sort by completed and sold items. That'll give you an idea of what it's selling for. But things fluctuate wildly. The collectibles market is very much like the stock market in some senses. Good things will always be good, but things are generational. You know, people who collected, I take for instance, like the giant comic book collection I bought years back, a couple years ago, I guess now. And I had all those Western comics. Anybody, the people who've been with the channel for a while will know what I'm talking about. Oh, do they take a percentage of shipping as well? Well, I know they did. They never used to, so that must be, maybe they caught on to that because people were doing that. They take a percentage of shipping. Gosh, that's one more reason why I wouldn't want to use eBay. Well, I guess that's why they're kind of getting around it. Thank you for letting me know. See, I don't sell a whole lot on eBay, but I know people used to do that. Oh, they caught wise of that years ago, people said. There we go. Sorry, back to what I was talking about is how collectibles really change. The way I look at it is what is popular with young people now will still probably be popular in 20, 30, 40 years as they grow and get older and end up getting, you know, better pay and better jobs. So things like Spider-Man, like an original Spider-Man comic book was valuable before, and it'll probably stay collectible and valuable in the future because it's still current. Kids who are growing up watching the new Spider-Man series will, as they grow and get jobs and get money, decide to start collecting back the things that mean something to them from their youth. It's nostalgia. And things that don't stay relevant, like Western comic books and Roy Rogers and Gene Autry and all that kind of stuff, they kind of fall by the wayside. And proof in point, I had that giant Western collection. The guy had spent probably, you know, a couple $100,000 on all that stuff in the 80s at its absolute peak. When it was nostalgic for him, being a guy who grew up with it in the 50s and 60s. In the 80s, he was an adult, spent tons of money on it, and then it dropped down to being worth a fraction of a percent of what it was. And, you know, you just have to be very careful. I feel that if something enters into sort of the category of art, you're probably okay, because if somebody thought it was really cool or really beautifully made then, they will now. You know, it's just, you got to be careful with what you're buying and what you're selling, because it can shift even within the same year or two. The one thing that shifted since I even started with my shop 7-8 years ago is that when we started, oil cans and advertising signs were incredibly hot. And, you know, oil cans were selling for hundreds and sometimes thousands of dollars. Well, now that market has surpassed its tipping point, and the prices come way down on a lot of that stuff. And really only the most mint of those oil cans are now worth money. And at the end of the day, it's a used oil can. You know, things like that have changed in value. So you got to be careful. Old signs are still good, you know, advertising signs, because they were made for a purpose. A lot of times they got scrapped. And so when you find them, they're kind of a nice piece of wall art. But again, that's because it's decor and it's a collectible. Dave says he misses the shop. There are days, Dave, when I miss the shop as well. But from a business perspective, and I know I've said it before, the shop was becoming successful as a gift shop, not as an antique shop. And if I want to be in the business of buying and selling antiques and not be a gift shop owner, I had to really make a decision of what type of store I wanted. And giftware and that was going well, but it was starting to overtake the collectibles. And when people come in expecting an antique store, you want them to have a really good antique store. So yeah, I'll think about, you know, I have moments where I think, well, maybe heck, I should open up a shop again. But it is really nice having the freedom to be available to do all these other little projects and other little things that I want to do that I find interesting, and also to travel. You know, yeah, it is nice to be able to have a bit of freedom. I'm just reading some of the comments here. What is my shop used for now? One side of it is an ice cream parlor, which is what we built that whole side for originally. That was what I wanted to use it for, and that's what it is. The other side is a Colombian restaurant, and both places, to my knowledge, are doing well. I know the ice cream shop is very ambitious, and they do a lot of advertising and a lot of marketing, and they're a very popular shop. So it's nice to know that we brought some spirit and some life to the neighborhood. Dave says, I just need a store manager. I guess if it was just a gift shop, then yeah, I could have somebody who just runs the store. The challenge was when we had antiques, people always want a deal. and they had to talk to me. And they also, sometimes things would come in and you're putting your own money out on the line. So you have to compensate for that. Jeroen Shorewater, I don't know if I said that right, but it says restaurant, did they turn the back into the kitchen? Yeah, the entire back area that Josh and I renovated and did that work to with the coffee bag ceiling, they converted that whole back area into a commercial kitchen. So yeah, that is definitely changed and morphed. In fact, I'll be honest, the ice cream shop, totally fine. They kept the heritage of the building. It looks great. It's exactly what I expect. But I can't go in the restaurant because they made it look like any quasi-modern 2000s restaurant inside and got rid of any and all character that place had. And yeah, it just really, it kind of hurts my heart a little bit to know how much love and effort and passion I had in trying to make that building look exactly like it did 100 years ago, just to see it kind of gutted. The outside looks the same. The outside looks good. It looks fine. But the inside isn't anything what it was of my store. And so I can't go back because it depresses me. I'm sure they wouldn't like to hear me say that, but it's true. You know, they did it with the budget they had and the way that they wanted it done. And yeah, it bothers me. But it didn't get demolished. It didn't get destroyed. To Debbie's point, she said if I wouldn't have saved it, it would have been gone. And now it's there and it's serving a purpose and it's really added a lot of life to the neighborhood. But yeah, it doesn't, my store side doesn't have any of the same character on the inside anymore. So yeah. So I don't know. We'll see. That one kind of, I probably should have just talked to somebody and, you know, not that you guys probably care about this or not, but I went through a pretty bad bout of depression, during that COVID period. The store was shut down. Melissa's dad had passed away. I had just lost my dad, a year or two prior. Was not having a great time in general. I couldn't even open my store. And so I started really second guessing my life and what I was doing. And I was, you know, I couldn't even go into work. And I think a lot of that was the catalyst for me to go like, what's the point? And what am I doing here? And why am I? And then, you know, you reopen the store and the store was successful and the store was doing well. But you know, we had like well over a year, almost 2 years, I think, or a year and a half or something like that we were shut down for. And I basically switched my business over to what we're doing today here, which is just selling through auction. And it kind of made me realize, like, man, what am I paying this overhead and this crazy property tax? And they quadrupled my tax. And so it got more and more expensive to run a business that was more and more going to online auction. And so, you know, we had a lot of money invested in the property. So yeah, we basically decided just to focus on this. There's a lot of reasons, all very practical, where I had to basically take the emotion out of my business and just try and be a business person and not be emotional about it, and see where the business actually did go and where the antiques were coming from and how they were actually selling. So I had to make that call. And sometimes you have to make very difficult, very challenging calls to push your business forward. But here we are, we're still going, we're still at it, and we're still having fun. And I do have a lot more time for adventures and things like that. Jeannie says, my favorites are the house clearouts that I do. Yeah, the house clearouts are a lot of fun. And honestly, I was anticipating doing more of those. The reason you're not seeing me do a lot of videos that are called hoarder house clearouts and things like that is that I'm contractually obligated to do those for a network now. And we're supposed to start filming those next year. So I can still do clearouts as I did with this last place. I would have filmed the inside and clearing it out, but I can't call it a hoarder clearout, which is fine because it's not super sensitive to say that anyway. But it'll be more labeled as, you know, estate clear out, or, you know, we bought a giant collection or what have you, because we don't want to be competing with ourselves with our own content, if that makes any kind of sense. But I will be a busy guy, and I imagine this spring, this summer, I will be doing a ton of those sort of clear outs, and probably all over the place. So I'm going to be busy and traveling and all that. But I do, if I really listened to, I don't know why I'm like talking to you guys like this is therapy all of a sudden, but if I listen to my heart, I I love making things a little bit better. I love fixing, I love renovating, I love, whether it's a car or building or doing that sort of stuff. That makes me feel happy and makes me feel creative. And oh, Michael says network. That means we won't see it abroad. No. This is a streaming network, and so they're all over the world. So people anywhere will be able, and I guarantee most of you probably already have this streaming network anyway. So trust me, people anywhere will be able to watch it. I do also want to do a lot more travel. I want to see some stuff in my life before I get too old and too achy to see stuff. And so there are places I'd like to go. I'd like to go overseas. I'd like to go to England and see where my family came from, and in the Newcastle area. I'd like to go visit Ukraine when I'm able to do that and see Galicia, which is where my great grandmother was from. So there's places that I'd like to go and things I'd like to visit. I think travel and just generally having experiences is what interests me. So, and Mary Beth says the life you have now is better for you and your family. Yeah, absolutely. We certainly have a nice mix where we're able to go and travel and also be at home with the kids when we need to. So it's nice to be able to be a dad and not be away so much. But also I'm realizing that my daughter probably has very little memory of me having a normal job. Like when I used to be a manager, a district manager for retail stores and a store manager for department stores. She has no memory of that because she was just like 4 or 5, and very vague recollections. So most of her life, she remembers me just having a weird job. I guess that's not a bad thing. But as my kids get into their working age, and Steven got a job now, I just want them to know that, don't worry. Dad worked at clothing stores. Dad folded clothes and did whatever he had to do. And that's just what you do. And I'm thankful that I'm able to have this time with them now and to be here with the kids more often than I would be. When I was at Apple, I was working, the shifts like 1 p.m. to 11 p.m. or I can't remember what it was. There was like a late shift where all you wanted to do was get home. Yeah, I think it was 2 hours after the store closed. And I was not home very often because I was constantly missing suppers, missing birthdays and things. Like most of you watching who have normal jobs know exactly what that's like. And so, to be able to take a little bit of that control back and do things that are fun for me and important for my family, I will never regret that decision. What are we doing here? We're selling stuff. But that die-cast card is sold for $20. That was fair. The die-cast going for 17 or 20. That's all right. This is a big salesman sample countertop thing. Oh, there we go. This is kind of a neat book. The Boy Tramps Across Canada book. That's an old book. The Young Canada series. What are they doing walking on the railway tracks? That doesn't look safe. You can't see, it went off the picture, but it's like, hey, next time you're out walking, why don't you walk on the railway tracks? Some got a message saying you should take more time to get a better price for your treasures. I do with certain things. In this scenario, I'll probably just cross the line and maybe make a little bit of money. So this ended up not being an overly worthwhile investment. Generally they are though. I'm fairly transparent when something goes well and also when something doesn't. So there is, you just never know. Oh, here we go. Like Black Beauty book, $80 on that. $90 now. It's an 1896 edition. That's pretty early. $100 a bid, now $110. Oh, here we go. Here's one that's running away a little bit. $110 the bid, now $120, $130, $130 a bid. Looking for $140, $130 is the bid. $130 currently on the 1896. Now $130, looking for $140. 1896 edition of Black Beauty. 6 seconds remaining. Last call. $130. You gonna win it for $10 more? And it's sold for $130. See, I would never have known that is a nice book. I would never put that book out for $130 at my store. So, I guess you just never know what is going to sell for. Generally, the way I look at it is that when you buy in bulk like this, you're going to get more for something and less for others. And at the end of the day, it's going to balance itself out. Your margins usually have to be about 50%, which means if you buy it for $5, you got to sell it for $10. to justify your expenses. In this case, it's like I bought it for 10 and I'm selling for $10.25. So not a whole lot of profit on this one, but good for me to know with future investments. Now, sure, if I took my time and sold this stuff individually on Abe Books or Abby Books or whatever it's called, or eBay and stuff, you could eventually make a bit more money. But you also have to say, like, if I'm going to make an extra $10, but it's going to take me 35 more hours of my life to get that extra $10, it's really not worth that extra $10. So I'm of the mindset that let it all go, let the chips fall where they may, move on to the next thing. And that's generally worked out pretty good. I never really second guess selling it at auction. It goes for what it goes for. Yeah, this was an expensive batch of stuff because it was such quantity. It filled that entire trailer and then some. Yeah, Britt says, a big sale like this, you just want the stuff to go. Yeah. You do indeed. Oh, there's a nice old Boy Scout book, $17.50, now $22.50, $22.50 the bid, now $25, $25 bid right now, looking for $30, now $30, looking for $35. What great graphics on these old books. $30 a bid right now, will it get up to $35? That's probably like $20 US. $30 a bid, last call, $30, where would it be, where will it land? Will we get to $35, $30 a bid, and off it goes. Here's a little forlorn. Look, Zorro has cut the spine with his sword. That's what happened there. That's why you don't jump off of walls with the sword in your hand, because you cut the spine of the book that you're on. If you ever wondered how Alex's mind worked, that's how my mind works. Doesn't it look like his sword just went shoop as he went down? Anyway. 1895 Little Journeys Abroad book. $12.50 the bid. Jack Reacher books are really good, Dave says. Yeah, that they've recreated that series. I heard that when Tom Cruise did the original movies, that wasn't Jack Reacher was supposed to be built like a brick wall, like a big giant 6 foot tall muscly guy, and then Tom Cruise got the role and he's 5 foot something and slender, and it wasn't how they imagined that character. So in the Netflix series of Jack Reacher, apparently that's more how they imagined it. Britt says the mind of Alex. Yeah. There's somewhere that, here's another book, 1895 medical advisor book with images. This is nice because it does have a lot of illustrations of the human body and all the guts and all the intestines and all the things that you'd want to know, the skeletal diagrams. So this is actually a pretty interesting book. And these old medical books, as you can see, are fairly collectible. $140 a bid right now. That's the thing, old medical stuff has always sold well. Old charts, pull down sort of school charts and things. I thought somebody bid on this. I guess my psychic powers aren't in tune. It's a guide to using your ESP abilities. What a fun gift that would be. See, there you go. Somebody bid $7.50. And look, it's written by Steven Tyler. Is it the same Steven Tyler? Walk this way and find out. 1970 ESP and psychic power book. So $10. I thought that was one of those fun sort of things that, the goofy oddball stuff always sells. And it looks like, I see up to $15 already. It's just one of those things. What a different kind of book. Yeah. Tired of my ESP abilities, just doing whatever they want. That's right. You got to hone those abilities. Right now, you're bending other people's spoons, Uri Geller style. Your next door neighbor is opening up their cutlery drawer and everything is bent. And you're getting frustrated going, I was really concentrating on bending this fork in front of me, but nothing happened. Meanwhile, across the street. Some vintage games coming up for sale now. Jim says, don't open a shop. Yeah, I think the only reason I would open a shop is because I actually really like merchandising, but then you have property tax, you have extra sales taxes, you have to pay for your debit machine provider, you have to pay for staff, you have to pay for insurance, you have to pay for security alarms and systems, you have to pay for property tax. The amount of overhead, Charlotte says, that's why my forks are bent. Yep. To answer your question, Virginia, the whole collection is being auctioned off today and today only. So all 830 whatever lots there are going today. That's all happening. 1855 Handbook of Painting book, and it does have the plates, the colored plates, $80 a bit on that. Mad Dog says, I hope the new show goes good. I have no expectation other than it will be nice to, I guess, do the search. I do love to search for stuff, and that is fun to kind of dig and open drawers and turn stuff over and see what you find. Sometimes it's gross, depending upon the situation, but sometimes there's a silver bar under a bed. So it is a lot of fun, and I've had some very fun experiences. I hope to have more of those in my lifetime. I'll probably be at this for a number of years more, and I'm still youngish. So I got to think that the best adventures I've had are yet to come, that the best is yet to come. And I'm excited for what is yet to come. Just use a hairdryer to get the stickers off. That's generally what I do. Little hairdryer will loosen up that glue, and they will have only been on there for a few weeks, so they should come off pretty easy. But don't try and take it off just on its own. I would just heat it up a little bit with the hairdryer first, and it should just pop right off. So the silver bar was crazy. Yeah. Robert says, you are but a lad. Well, thanks. That makes me feel young. I'm not so young to my kids. They just see me as their elder father. But I don't feel much different. My back feels different than when I was 22, but mentally I don't feel, I still feel like I have, that ambitions and that wonder of what's to come and what's to happen in the world still. So I hope I never lose that. I hope I'm still 80 and looking through boxes for stuff and working on toy cars and fixing stuff up. This little Jeep CJ kit, $15. Heather Locklear. Never, not the Heather Locklear. Do you imagine? I don't imagine Heather Locklear is building vintage model kits of Jeeps in her free time, but who am I to say? Who am I to judge what Heather Locklear does in her free time? I know it's not Heather Locklear. It's Heather Locklear, but I'm sure she's heard that her whole life, having a name so similar. $20 the bid right now. Now $22.50. Oh, auctioneer Jeff Goldblum is making an appearance again. $22.50 is the bid right now. Looking for $25. $22.50. Last call, and it is sold. Here are some Coleco Quiz Whiz games, and we did test these out with batteries, and they're in working condition. We're starting to get into the Atari and the video games and so forth. Another idea would be to buy a building and start your own flea market. If I was going to do that, it would probably make sense for me. To do more of an antique mall kind of thing where people pay rent and have their booth, and then I've got my stuff I can put in there. But again, I really like the idea of not having overhead and not worried. I hated, the one thing I really didn't like about having a store was the theft. Anything from little kids coming from the school and trying to take candy to adults coming in and trying to stuff their coats with stuff, or people breaking in at night. You just don't want to see that side of society that you see when you own your own business. It's so disappointing when you really just want to provide a nice experience and take care of people and be nice and kind. And then you have this suspicion of, well, great, now I have to watch this person, or now I have to, worry about whether they're taking something, or remind that kid that, oh no, you do actually have to pay for things at this store, which I had to do numerous times. As I would stuff candy in their pocket and go to walk out the door and go, oh no, this is a store where you have to pay for things. So yeah, I don't know. I know that's anywhere, and I know that's society, and that's been part of society since the first person set up a shop and a market stall in Rome or whatever. There's always been that aspect of it. It's just disappointing is all. And yeah, property tax on a commercial building is nuts. And so it's very nice to avoid all of those expenses. I don't want to get into the government, but boy, they sure have a way of trying to nickel and dime every cent away from a business. So I'd really have to think hard before I did another brick and mortar store again. But it was fun. You know, the things I liked about it were going and sourcing new products as well. And we used to carry all sorts of things other than antiques. And frankly, like I said earlier, all the new stuff started selling much better than all the old. And so we ended up having a very successful gift shop. And then it was like, well, what the heck? Tanisha says, hey, Fam Jam. John and I are watching the auction, having a rainy, lazy Sunday. Oh, that's Melissa's cousin, Tanisha. Hey, Tanisha, thanks for the live chat. Thanks for the super chat. And hopefully you guys can make your way out to Edmonton again. It'd be nice to have you come visit. We've moved, I think, since you visited last time. Melissa doesn't talk about her newfound family, but Melissa also did Ancestry as her dad was adopted as a baby and found some relatives she didn't know she had. So Melissa and I both have new family. And I'm actually excited because planning a trip down to Montana next summer, and we're hoping to meet up with my brother Steve's adopted dad, not his biological dad. That would be our dad in common. But to meet his adopted dad and to do a family barbecue and all that. So very excited for that and to meet with family. There is a way to change your resolution at your end to 720p or higher, and it should show up okay. Honestly, on my camera, at my end, it doesn't look that blurry. So. Jeannie says, I think the way Alex does things works great for him. I mean, the dude's got an acreage and 564 cars. That's very specific amount of cars. Is that how many I'm supposed to have? If you count my Hot Wheels and my other toys, you might be getting close to that number, I guess. A lot of 7 Commodore 64 cartridge games. Oh, here we go. 5 Coleco video games. Anybody? I used to love playing Pitfall. I don't know about you guys. That was one of my most favorite games to play. I'm dating myself now. Melissa is talking to her cousin back and forth on the chat. I'm missing out on family conversation. Some other Coleco games. Gorf. I wonder who came up with the names for some of these games. I know that Steve Jobs and Wozniak and a lot of these heavy hitter computer guys started off doing video game development for Atari and Coleco and things like that. There are some games I know that Steve Jobs worked on and helped develop, and a lot of those guys were, Gorf is frog backwards, so there you go. So it's a kind of interesting part of computer history, and you think about how much the world has changed and shifted. Steve Jobs did Breakout, okay. So a lot of the way the world has shifted into technology now actually stems from a lot of these early video games, which is probably why a lot of people are collecting it now, because it's actually collecting. I will be as bold as to say that if you collect early video games like this, you are collecting the roots of modern human history. And that's kind of a bold and weird thing to say, but it's kind of true. You start off making video games, becomes accessible and successful. Words are hard today. And then they start with the computers, and then people can have a computer in their house, and then it turns into the iPhone, iPad. Now you're not cutting down as many trees, and people are more connected, and the world is closer, and now you've got AI. It's like all of it really started around this time in the 70s and 80s when it really took off, and it started with these video games that we're looking at right here. So if you want a piece of history, there you go. Same with collecting vinyl records. Yeah, it's, I will say that I probably prefer listening to music on vinyl than I do through my phone or computer. It's just, there's a warmth and a depth of quality that you get from vinyl. You can correct me if you feel I'm wrong, but I feel like when you listen to music through vinyl and you see that that vinyl platter spinning, it just it makes you feel more connected to the music in some way. If you've never sat and listened to an album that you really, really like and sat there reading the liner notes and looking at the album cover while that thing spins and plays, you just felt more connected to the band and the music that you don't get the same in the same way with just, streaming it. But anyway, that's my old-fashioned opinion, I guess, there. There was a wrestling game with a dude called Piranha who bit the other guy's head. That's funny. We got the Rocky games there, Tutankhamun, baseball. So we ended up with a whole pile of video games here. Linda says, you're not wrong. CDs have kind of a weird quality. Yeah, you definitely don't get the same kind of warmth. You know, get some big tower speakers and a good amplifier, preferably a tube amp and a good quality turntable, and you will get the best quality sound that you've ever heard in your life, and it just will fill your soul with the sounds of that music. Glad to know I'm not alone in that. Coleco video games loose and vintage. That's up to $22.50 now. See, the video games are starting to take off. That's pretty good. Yeah, let's see. Jim says there's an actual physical, and Jim, nice to see you on here. Jim says there's an actual physical mechanical connection with the musicians when played on vinyl. Yeah, it is. It's just the young people these days are missing out on all the good stuff that we had growing up. Mind you, they're also missing out on, you know, somebody bumping the turntable and scratching your album. Oh, Melissa is off to take Abigail to her friend's house. So thank you, Melissa, for being on with us. As my wife and daughter head off and on their way to do their... Abigail's she's getting together with her friends. Jason, I think, is home now. He was out at his friend's place this morning. When they get to be teenagers, there's a lot more on the go and a lot more socializing. So he's got a birthday party he's going to tonight, which sounds like it's going to be quite the schwindig, because they told the kids to dress formal for a bunch of 16, 17-year-olds. So that ought to be fun. Dust Production says, I've not seen this much Atari stuff in a while. Yeah, it was... To give some context, the gentleman that I bought all this stuff from, I believe he's in his mid-80s. And I don't think I'm wrong there. And he does subscribe to our channel as well. And he started buying this stuff in the 70s and 80s at yard sales and so forth, when people were starting to move on to the next system and the old stuff would come up. He would buy it, put it in a box, put it in his basement, buy it, put it in a box, put it in his basement. And that's where a lot of this stuff sat for the last 50 years. So talk about, you know, thinking ahead and buying a future collectible. That's why there was so much quite rare, actually, Atari stuff, and even like Commodore 64 floppy disk drives. Like, those aren't real easy to find anymore, you know? So a lot of stuff like that you might take for granted at a sale and go, well, it's just an old disk drive. Where are you going to find one? You know, it's not like they're readily available, and it's not like people really hung on to those things. So most of it ended up getting scrapped or thrown out or recycled. And so coming across that stuff is just, you know, really, really challenging. Recording the charts from the radio. Yeah. Or better yet, making mixtapes off the radio and trying to hit the record button after the DJ stopped talking. And it would always be so frustrating when you're trying to get your song and the DJ would talk well into the beginning of the song. You go, stop talking. I want to record this song. And you'd get like a little clip of the DJ talking over top of it. Maybe that's just me who remembers that, but that's my memory of trying to make a mixtape. And you could phone in sometimes and make your request, and you'd be listening and listening and listening for it to come on just so you could record it. And then, here we go, another great hit from, let's say U2. Where the street, and then start playing it, and he'd be talking. No, stop talking. And I know that song has a really long intro, but still. Some little vintage Fisher-Price toys for $5 US or $7.50 Canadian on that. Oh, here we go. The Zenith Transoceanic Yacht Radio. This is kind of a cool piece, actually. These were invented to be used on ships out at sea, and they had a battery, or you could plug them in. $100 a bit on that. If you had a vintage yacht, which who doesn't? I mean, really. You need one of these on your 1950s Chris Craft yacht. This would be the perfect accessory to sit there on your by your lounger. I remember we were out on Vancouver Island visiting a couple years ago, and somebody did have a 1940s or 50s Chris Craft yacht, and it was the coolest thing. It was all wood, and it was sitting there at dock, and it looked like it needed a little TLC, but man, I thought that was the neatest looking thing. I've always liked vintage boats, but they say boat stands for bust out another thousand. It's not true. They are expensive things to maintain. Gosh, I've been talking for 83 minutes. I'm going to take a drink of water here. Okay, so here's a 1940s tube amplifier head. I plugged it in. I didn't see it doing much. Maybe I didn't wait long enough, but that's why I said, needs a cable. I guess I didn't plug that one in. Right, the cable is nasty on that one. There's another amp head I did plug in. But people will actually turn these into guitar amps. And so that's why there's some interest in that tube amp stuff is popular for people that retrofit. Wooden external speaker, you could actually put a Bluetooth speaker in the back of that and retrofit it to get the vintage look in your house. Even if you painted it, cleaned it up, did something with it, it could be a really cool piece. $17.50 is a bid, looking for $20 on that right now. By the way, thank you to all 1,255 people who are listening to me yammer on about absolutely nothing and everything at the same time. Appreciate everybody there, and thanks again to everybody who's actually online and bidding on stuff at the auction today. Lots of neat stuff going up for sale, and we're getting into some of the radios. I'm going to scroll ahead and see. Oh, look at all these 80s video game controllers. That is a heaping pile of 80s video game controllers for Atari and Commodore. $17.50 the bid on that. If you're missing a controller for your vintage system, I even see a Nintendo one in there. You should bid on that if you're a video game collector or person. Charlotte says your voice is calming. Well, hopefully not to the point where everybody's falling asleep. But yeah, that if I was a collector of that stuff, yeah, $25, absolutely. I'd be bidding like crazy because to find that many controllers in one go for an 80s console is not an easy thing to find. So there we go. Oh, yeah. And if you haven't hit the like button, you can do that. It's a little thumbs up. So you can give the thumbs up. Encourage me to keep talking here rather than just, have silence with deep sounds of me sobbing in the background. Michelle, thank you very much for the super chat. Was there a question there? I'm trying to read it. No, I can't read it. Something about the radios, you had over. Gosh, I can't read your comment. Didn't come up for whatever reason, but a lot of the radios are coming up. And if they are working, I did plug in and attempt to basically get most of these things going. So if it says for repair, that means I plugged it in. Probably not much happened. And so I will have noted it. If it says it works, then it would work. So these are some of the radios for repair. I think this one, the clock worked, but I couldn't get the radio to turn on. Hey, if you're the person who bought the giant box of radio repair manuals earlier, or the box of tubes, you could probably just move it right along. So $17.50 is the bid on that right now. We're getting close to last call. We'll see if it jumps anymore. It's an interesting looking radio. That's more of a mid-century sort of design, that 1950s mid-century modern kind of look. Anna says, let's see if we can get to 800 likes on this video for Alex yammering. Sure. I think we jumped up 100. If you hit the thumbs up button, that's how you do it. And hello from Sweden. Hey, incidentally, Anna Corinne from Sweden, that is one place I would like to go. I think Melissa and I both. Melissa has Swedish ancestry. Her great-great-grandparents, I think, were from Sweden. You go back a few generations. So she looks like she's Swedish. Doesn't Melissa look like she's got some Swedish? She's like Swedish and German and I guess some English in there from her dad's side. But we both have said we wouldn't mind visiting Sweden and maybe some of the Scandinavian countries at some point. We haven't done that yet. You'd love the castle. Sure, but what if I don't? I could never tell you. If I ever met you in Sweden and you're like, and I don't know how you talk, but I assume you talk like this, which you probably don't. And if you're like, yes, this is our castle, don't you love it? And I'm like, no, I've seen better castles. I would never say that. I'm sure the castle would be amazing, but I would love to go to Sweden. That is one place I'd like to visit. I think Denmark, any of the Baltic sort of, and Scandinavian countries seem like they'd be interesting. Fun note about the Swedish castle. It was built with the largest quantity of Allen keys ever. I wonder if they built the castle with the same instructions you get from IKEA, where it's a picture of a guy with like a question mark scratching his head and then a picture of like a brick going on top of another brick. It's like the origin of the IKEA instructions. Yes, I'm sure Swedish people are very sick of the IKEA jokes. But guess what? There'll be at least 3 more by the time this show's over today. Flat pack castle. Yeah, that would take you a while. It can't get rained on, though, with all that particle board. Here we go, some unbuilt model kits coming up for auction. That last one, the vintage Street Machine Volkswagen, sold for a whopping $50. We're at $12.50 for the T-Bird. Here's an example of things that have actually changed in value. The real 567 T-Birds were incredibly valuable in the 1970s and 80s. Now you can pick them up for not much money. They just really have not maintain their value, although they're an interesting car and a good car to drive, I'm sure, and reliable. They've actually dropped in value. They reached their peak probably 20, 30 years ago or more. And you can disagree with me, but I would say that it's true. Same thing with 1920s like Model A Fords. I remember in the 80s, Model A Fords were very expensive to get. A rumble seat Model A Ford was like, wow, that's pretty fancy. Now, pretty affordable. I see a lot of people talking about their DNA. I think I just saw somebody say, found out that my husband and I are related. Well, hopefully not too closely related. That would be, you hear these horror stories, but luckily, nothing like that happened when we did our kit. I joked with Melissa and I called out one of her cousin's last names and I said, "Oh, I'm related to this person." She went, "What? That's my cousin." just to freak her out. But no relation at all. 1/72nd scale Phantom plane kit unbuilt, $12.50. A nice little Christmas present for somebody or for yourself. And there's the Memphis Belle. Yeah, we did. We got the Ancestry kit for Melissa's dad when he was still alive because he was, like I said, he was adopted. And so he was very curious to know if he could find his family. We did find the cousin actually that was on, I don't know if she's still on, her mom would potentially be Melissa's aunt, but she's unwilling to take the DNA test to kind of definitively prove it. So we can make the assumption that if this girl is a first cousin to Melissa, well, her mom has to be her aunt. Or her dad would be her uncle, but we're fairly certain that my father-in-law Dave had some other siblings that he never had a chance to meet. I'm of the mindset at this point, and I was joking about this, that my brother Steve and my sister Heather were both from Montana and are about a week or two apart in age. So that means from a conception, let's just call it what it is, from a conception point of view, probably conceived in the same week. So my dad didn't marry my mom. He lived for that about 6 years like that. So if you're averaging 2 kids a week, this is how my math works, 2 kids a week for 6 years, I'm gonna be getting at least a few more notifications on Ancestry. If not, like, it's gonna be one of those scenarios where you find out that the dad was like a sperm donor or something, and there's thousands of kids. Well, my papa was a Rolling Stone, apparently. What can I say? My dad was a musician and a free spirit in the fun-loving hippie era of the 70s. And apparently he met kindred spirits at that time. And and so at this point, it's like, heck, what are you going to do at this point? What are you going to do? So may as well get to know these people. And honestly, getting to know Steve and getting to know Heather has only made my life better. And I'm looking forward to meeting more family out there. So I am excited to meet other family that I may have. My dad lived in Hawaii in the early 70s for about 2 years. So I'm waiting. Where is that sibling that has a beachfront property in Hawaii? I mean, I'm sure you're lovely, but honestly, it'd be nice to have a place to go visit out there. He was in Oahu, I think in 70 and 71. So I'm crossing my fingers that the next sibling that comes around is going to be Hawaiian and be super cool about us staying and crashing there whenever we want. Now, the same goes here. They can come hang out in Canada, but Canada's not as hot of a tropical destination. So I don't think we'll have that many more. Oh, here we go. We're getting into some of the radios, working condition. Here we go. 1950s white G. I should probably talk about the auction at some point here too. 1950s white GE radio in working condition, $80. That's more of an Art Deco-y sort of look. Probably, I dated it to the 50s based on the fact that I think it's plastic, but it has that sort of deco throwback 40s kind of feel to it. Interesting piece. Inline Skater Dad says, you haven't popped up on my feed for over a year. What gives? I was a regular viewer. Well, you still can be. I've been posting 2 to 3 videos a week for the entire year that you've been gone. So I'm not sure where you went, but I will say this: if you are not subscribed and you don't have your notifications turned on, you won't get, like, YouTube will not send you 70% of the, or even 90% of the videos I have coming out. In fact, a lot of people that even are subscribed, they will only notify you of the videos that we have that are in common with what your interests are. So if you pretty much only like videos about, I don't know, old tractors, it'll send you the videos I have about tractors and nothing else. So make sure to subscribe and like and turn your notifications on, and then you'll get that. Press the bell so you can get all the notifications. That's right. VetNet says, I spent 3 years on Oahu, 87 to 1990. And Oahu, I think, is where they had it's mostly the big military base there too. Vintage Texas Instruments computer, $90 a bit on that right now. We've got some of the guides that go along with it, some of the books and the computer itself. So we'll see. I don't think Texas Instruments made Interments. Okay. I have to apologize. Sometimes the spelling gets jumbled on these, and I guess they don't spell check the ads before they go up. But that should be Texas Instruments, not Interments. $100 a bid on that. Luckily, people who are bidding know better. Box of assorted antiques. So you got an old, like, motorcycle or bicycle seat, some pans, a lamp, some random stuff. $12.50. Oh, there's that spotlight. I guess that would be like the, oh my gosh, my mind has gone blank today. It's a shutter for a spot lamp is what it is, and you can open or close it. Kind of a neat thing. $22.50 is the bid right now. Aperture, thank you. Good gosh. I have those moments a lot. I hope that's not a sign that I'm missing some nutrients in my diet or something. You know, trying to recall a name or a place. I'm terrible with names. I don't know what that's all about. Melissa's really good with faces and names, and she has, if she goes through the alphabet, if she's like, I think his name starts with, let's see what name his starts with, and he'll go A, B, C, D, D. D, it's Daryl. She will name off letters in the alphabet, and it'll trigger her brain somehow. And she can remember anybody's name or anything almost just by going through the alphabet. I don't know what that means. Yeah, Jacqueline Marie says, it looks like you're around 17,000, 18,000. I'll be honest with you, Jacqueline, even if I'm at that amount, I'm still losing $1,000 or more because they're going to take their percentage too. So I'm probably, I still have not broke even on. What was Alex thinking? Why would Alex spend so much money? I felt bad for the fellow. He was in over his head on all this stuff, and he had to get rid of it, and I had to go all at once. And I don't know. I should have just recommended he auction himself, but then he would be beside himself, I think, seeing what stuff was selling for. So sometimes you win and sometimes you lose. And today is I'll be happy to break even day. That's fine. Not every buy is going to be a good buy. So. I think I was listening to a comedian, it might have been John Mulaney, and he was saying, when you're in a coma and they wake somebody up from a coma on a movie and they go, who are you? Who are you? And he says, that's not what people do. He said, that's not how you act when you come out of a coma. When you don't know somebody, the first thing you do is you go, oh, hey, you, long time no see, because yelling and pointing at people that you don't know them and screaming would be very rude. So yeah, I thought that was pretty funny. And that's kind of like the same when you don't remember a name, you don't point and scream and say, I don't know you, stranger. You go, oh, hey, and you kind of pretend that you do. Yeah, so here we go. More Atari compatible controllers. A nice little lot of those. Yeah, honestly, with the auction thing, sometimes you do well, and sometimes you break even, and sometimes you do really, really well. And anyway, it all balances out over a period of a year. It was fun to go through the stuff, and it was fun to do the videos, and so I've got that. And people are getting some pretty reasonable deals today. So I think, for anybody who's watching, we're able to move the stuff along, get it to new places, and disperse what was 50 or 60 years worth of accumulation. Hans is doing fine. Hans is just busy working. I don't think he's doing much for videos anymore, but he is a very busy guy. Oh, this video, sorry, go back to that. This blonde Coronado radio is working condition, and it's bid up to $120. See, I'm all right with that. I wouldn't have put that price tag on at the shop, so there we go. Hans is fine. I should get him in a video. He makes occasional appearances in our videos still. Yeah, he's doing just fine. He's just busy being Hans, busy working. I don't think the Wozniak computer has sold yet. That'll be coming up. Northern Electric wooden radio for repair. Very nice Art Deco sort of look to this piece here. $40, and you can see I said it was for repair, so obviously it needs some TLC, but somebody's probably going to do something really interesting with it. Somebody said they like the red dial on the last radio. Channel Master transistor radio. Usually these take 9-volt batteries, and I don't think I tested many of the transistor radios because I don't know. I probably should have, but transistor radios are actually still fairly collectibles. For $750 is a good deal on that. Heathkit 2 power supply unit, not a supply unit, a supply unit. $90 the bid there, $100 now. Will it get to 110? 100's the bid. These more industrial sort of units, and Heathkit was actually a fairly high-end brand at the time, sort of like literally a kit you'd order and build and put together. 110 the bid now. Will it get up to 120? It's anybody's guess. We'll see. There's some cute little Art Deco radios coming up, and I would suspect that those things are going to go for a decent price. Hopefully you guys are all doing okay with this live stream. This is definitely a longer live stream. I'll keep at it for a little while here while this auction continues on. Incidentally, if you're interested in watching or bidding yourself, you can log into kauctions.ca and sign up very easily for the Curiosity Retro Sale, and you can place some bids. There's lots of vintage video games, radios, and computers still to go. And a whole pile of comic books coming up as well. This is actually a neat little radio. This is as well, Northern Electric Magnaphone. This would have been, it's not really a radio. It's part of an intercom or PA system that would have been throughout a business. And this would have been like a control. So you push down on that to talk, and you push up, I think, to listen, or it just comes through the speaker. It's the same case essentially as the Addison or as the Northern Electric Waterfall, which is that great Art Deco sort of look. And yeah, just kind of a neat, interesting piece. Heathkit as a company are still trading. That's good to know. I don't know what the auction total is right now. I won't know until after the sale is over myself. Mackie Mental says that Space Alert is impossible to find. That's good to know, because I think there might be a couple of those in here. Transistor radios are easy to repair. I think anybody could do it. I'm enjoying watching as I work out. Keep going as long as you want. Okay, well, there you go. Nice little Silvertone radio in working condition. Again, very 1950s. I have to say that an old radio does look really nice on your shelf. In fact, I've got one over on my shelf on display. I do like having an old radio on the standby. Yeah, I think there was a Canadian Storage Wars type show. Somebody's saying, "Oh, Canada Storage Wars would be so polite." The one problem I have with a lot of scripted shows is they add more drama into those things than they need to, or they want to find. They still have that. Let's find the biggest, boldest, craziest person to be kind of rude, and I don't know. There was one point where there was a show, and I can't remember the name of it, but these guys would go metal detecting, and they would find like half a rusted nickel in the ground, and they would throw their like $1,000 metal detector on the ground, and they'd run around screaming like their hair's on fire. And I remember watching that show with my dad, and he's like, "This is ridiculous. Like, whatever director is doing this show is way over the top." And I agree. Like, there's a limit. You know, you can. I'll be honest. When you're actually really excited about something, you almost go silent because you can't believe the thing that you have. Some of the things I found in at the musician's house, there was no screaming. There was more silence and just shaking and excitement when you found something really cool. So when you see on TV and somebody's like, yeah, belt buckle on the ground, and they go running around and throwing stuff all over the place, you just know they're hamming it up for the camera. And I hope I'm not asked to do anything like that. I really said to them that I really didn't want to do anything like that for our show. Yeah, I don't know. I don't get that too much myself. I watch car shows fairly regularly, and I think if you watch like Wayne Carini does a car show chasing classic cars, and I feel like that's fairly honest. Like it's just he's a fairly level guy, and he's been in the business a while. So if he loses money on a car at auction, he'll go, well, wish that would have gone for a bit more. He doesn't like start smashing tables or pounding his fists in anything. So I prefer shows like that. And that show's been on for, I think, like 15 years or something. So I think that you can actually just be a normal person and still be a reality show and not have to be so over the top. Anyway, some odd stuff going here. I was kind of chatting through the CB radio set. This Helicrafter set went for 120. The pink Baby Champ radio went for 60. So we're getting some good money on things. Oh, here's another Construct set, $15. Jacqueline says, I never realized the value of comics. Friend had no problem using his collection to buy a house. Well, there you go. And Alex Cootie-Art says, whatever happened to you being on TV? Well, it's still supposedly going to happen. We haven't started filming or anything, but I am signed to a streaming service, and we're just kind of waiting for them to pull the trigger and actually get us out and get us filming. I'm committed to doing it, and they are committed to using me if they go ahead with the show. But there's nothing to say that they might not go ahead with the show. So who knows? I'm doing my YouTube stuff, and I'm still having fun, and still just kind of doing what we're doing. A lot of Atari Power Pack, $60 on that. $60 the bid. Looking for 70. We'll see if it reaches that. Once it goes over, I think $50 over 50, it starts to jump up at $10 increments. There you go, 60 to 70, 70 now, 80. It's always fun watching these when the bids start really coming in. I think this auction in particular, there's going to be a lot of interest, and I'll be curious to know how some of these old PC games do, because that is, I'll be honest, the vintage video games and the computer stuff is something I'm not super well versed in. Like I like to think that I'm a generalist and I know a little bit about a lot, but there's very few things that I know a great deal about. And so when I get into stuff like this, is that I know that there's collectors for it. I know that certain vintages and ages of games are better than others, but I don't know what stuff's going to sell for. I'm not a vintage video game or arcade kind of store. So this is all, it's an education for me. And part of the reason why we stream these live feeds is so that we can learn as well and see what people are bidding and buying. And like an assortment of video games on floppy disk is more than, some of the antique wood planes and stuff that we had. Here, this is actually, I don't know why they showed this as the first picture here. I guess because it maybe has the box, but this is a Commodore 64 floppy disk drive. Where the heck is a human going to find that? It still has a little cardboard insert that goes inside there. Other than this auction, if you're a computer collector, which there are computer collectors out there, I don't know where else you'd find it. So they don't turn up at antique stores, and even specialty sort of video game stores. They probably wouldn't be that easy to find. But $70 a bid now. And I guess, for those people out there that are preserving this part of our history, it's great to kind of see what this stuff is selling for, because I literally had zero clue. Zero. If you would have brought this into my shop and said, I need an appraisal on this, well, I guess I could look up what other ones had sold for and get an idea, but I would have had no clue. Many times I have no clue about things. I don't know a lot about china or dishes or plates. Frankly, it just doesn't interest me that much. I think that certain antique plates and dishes are interesting. Pyrex is something of interest, and I get why people like them. My wife uses our butter print set. She's got the blue Amish butter print set. We use it all the time. and it looks great on the shelf. And I get that because it's practical, it's cool, it's different, it's colorful. Certainly get that. So here we go, Vintage Pirates PC game, $45. Now, here's something interesting. There are actually YouTubers, and what they do is they stream themselves playing these old games. So there are channels out there, and they have a whole channel, and one episode or maybe multiple will be them playing this 1980s Ultimate Warriors of Destiny game, and people will watch and watch them play. So there's this whole subgenre of folks that are into this kind of stuff. So looked like it was a good idea for me to list these games individually, because there we go, $60 for that one game. Ultima 5 Warriors, vintage PC game. There we go, The Wrath of Nicodemus, and some serious, he must be a powerful guy, or he's having a bad day. It looks like they're really picking on him. He's just standing there on his floating disc, and they're all shooting at him, and they got their swords out. What if he was just on his way somewhere, and that's how he gets around? Today I'm going to wear my dark hood and my loincloth, and then he gets outside of his front door, and he's getting attacked by all these people. That's the game I would make, where it's just a guy casually on his way out to the club in his loincloth. Another fun day out at the club. Oh, what's this? And he gets jumped by people with axes and flames and stuff and has to make his way to the club on time. That's why I'm not a video game designer. Advanced Dungeons and Dragons PC game. There's an oldie. $40 on that. How many people still own a Commodore? Gosh, that's a good question. I should hope there's not a lot of people using the Commodore as their main computer. Ginger Lady says, I'm like, why watch somebody else play a game? I don't know. Maybe it's like, you're like, go in the door or don't pick that up, or I don't know. Who knows? Who am I to say? There's nothing but, I think Twitch is mainly for people who stream themselves playing games. It's a real thing. Actually, Castle Wolfenstein was one of the first first-person shooter kind of games. And I remember playing that when it came out, and I felt dizzy afterwards. I also felt like I could run 100 miles an hour. It like screwed up my corneas. I played that on the computer, and then afterwards ran home, and I felt like I was running way faster than a human should run. But I think my vision was messed up from it. $45 is that. Mackie Mintle says, I'm your video game designer. Ask questions offline. There we go. Good, then we can have my, demonic looking guy in a floating disc game idea who's just on his way out. He's out to buy groceries even, and has to face a whole bunch of people that think he's evil. He's just misunderstood. So I tell my kids, don't go on your floating disc in your loincloth. People will think you're some sort of demonic person they have to shoot flames at. Combat Leader, Commodore 64 game. Not as many people in this one. It seems like the fantasy sort of games were getting good bids. This one, $10 still, that's fine. It's a social media aspect, yeah. So Jenny Penny says there's a lot of interaction with the comment section while people play their games, social media. So do they live stream themselves playing? Is that what it is? And then you can kind of tell them where to go and, ask them to do different things on the game. I guess that'd be kind of fun, feeling like you've got some control or some say in it. Tanisha says, I stream games. Maybe I'll take a look at streaming older games one day. Good. And Tanisha, you're still here, our newfound family member. That's what they do. They get these old like Commodore games or Atari systems, and they set them up, and they will actually stream like what it was like to play a floppy disk video game back in the day, and they will stream it live, and people get that experience, which I guess if you didn't have streamers doing that, you really wouldn't have that experience or be able to see what that was like. Maybe that doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things, but on the other hand, it's a form of storytelling. And these old video games did have pretty intense plots with some of them. And, it's kind of interesting to see what people were thinking. How sticky are the stickers? Use a hairdryer. That's what I say. You got to heat up the sticker with a hairdryer, and then it should just lift right off, no trouble. That's kind of the way to do it. I heard somebody else use an iron as well. I don't know. That I'd worry about that, but As long as you heat it up or you can steam it off, that will work too. It's the same as watching sports and yelling at the players and telling them what to do and what not to do. I guess so. Techno Cop. He made it to the club, and he's got his Countach, it looks like. Techno Cop. You'll hear him coming. His siren, it's not a siren, it's just Techno Cop. Pigs in Space. And actually, some of these games were still sealed too, which was kind of cool. $7.50 the bid on that right now. The sun has moved and now is blinding me again. Says Gretch Armstrong. Yep. Get that heavy bass in there for Techno Cop. Techno Cop is from they're from Bremen, Germany. Yes, I'm Techno Cop. And lots of leather, I think. Okay, hang on. I gotta move this curtain. I'm moving a curtain because Techno Alex is getting blinded by the light. And nobody knows the next lyrics to that song. There we go. Oh, that's better. I can see again. And I can breathe. There we go. A lot of Atari game booklets. Well, that's handy for people who are collecting. You gotta have the books to go with the games. Oh, the next one coming up is kind of cool. It's original Donkey Kong. Here's a fun fact. Do you know that the first appearance of Mario from Mario Brothers, Super Mario, is the guy who is in the background of Donkey Kong getting hit by the barrels? That's Mario. And that's the first time I think he appeared in a game was in Donkey Kong. Correct me if I'm wrong, because this is like some random fact I think I have that I might be wrong about because of the way I'm speaking in this upward tone, but I'm pretty sure that's right. So there we go. The original Donkey Kong in the original Donkey Kong box, and Donkey Kong has taken a Donkey Kong Smash out of the top of the box, but it's still there. Yes, it is correct that it was Mario in his first role. Thank you. It's nice to know that occasionally I have these random tidbits that pop into my brain and that they're correct. And that means it's something really important I learned in school, like, fractions is now gone because I've replaced it with Donkey Kong garbage knowledge that's there for the rest of the time. He was also called Jumpman, yeah. And then, actually, I think somewhere in this auction is the first Mario Brothers game for Atari, where they made a Mario Brothers game, and it's here somewhere in this auction. I don't know that I'll stay on long enough for it to show up, but yeah. Original Pac-Man game in box. There's one. I think my dad could have played Pac-Man for hours. I think my dad did play Pac-Man for hours. He was all about video games at this time, which I guess makes sense. In the 80s, my dad would have been like 30 years old in his 30s. So I could see why, you'd want to be, if you're a 30-year-old guy, that's still pretty fun. You're just out of your 20s. Why not? Double Dragon for the PC system. Police Quest. Yeah, so the games are actually doing all right. Donkey Kong games, cards and gum from the 80s. I don't remember Donkey Kong gum, but I can certainly remember what any gum tasted like coming out of a pack of cards in the 80s. It was always like, it was almost more surprising to get a piece of soft gum in a package where it seemed like it was wrong. Mostly it was like a piece of peanut brittle made out of gum. It was always stuck to the best freaking card in the pack. Like if you're like, I got a Wayne Gretzky card, and then it had the gum stuck to it, and you're like, why? And even if you could get that gum off successfully, it would leave the telltale greasy rectangular schmear mark. Okay, I'm going to talk to you about my childhood memories and see if some of you guys have the same. You get the wax pack from the store, whether it was Wacky Packages or hockey or whatever it was, and you're all excited to open it up, and you can feel the lump of where the gum is on the other side of the pack. So you're like, oh yeah, there's a piece of gum in here. You open it up, and as soon as you flip it over, the first thing you see is the good side of the card has the gum stuck to it. It was always the freaking best card, Wayne Gretzky, for example. And then your job is, well, now I've got to try and exhume this mummified piece of gum off of it. And do you throw it out? No, you don't throw it out. You take your time to peel it off the cardboard, mostly successful, oftentimes leaving that rectangular dark grease stain of gum on your favorite card, sometimes ripping the card. Would that stop you from dropping that thing in your face? No, it wouldn't. you would pop that in there and snap it in your teeth like a piece of peanut brittle. And yes, it would crunch, and you'd have a little chunk of cardboard sometimes stuck in there, and you would chew the heck out of that thing until it eventually turned into some gum that had flavor for exactly 13.5 seconds. And then you'd have to find a place to stick the gum. It was usually back in the wax packet that your cards came in. It was the worst gum. Cryptech says, I think the gum was made partially from whale's blubber. That would have improved the flavor, I think. 13.5 seconds, that sounds like 7 fruit striped gums. Yeah, there's a lot of gums, and like even the early chiclets too, where you're like, yeah, chiclets. Nom, 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 and then it's gone. Yeah, it was Garbage Pail Kids had crumbly gum in it too. It's the same type of gum. Makes you wonder, like somewhere at some point there was a factory that just made sheets of that rock hard gum. That was all they did. I wonder where the factory, like if that factory still exists. I went to, when I lived in Winnipeg for a while, and I was in Winnipeg for about 5 years, on North Main Street, which is not the best end of Winnipeg if you live there. It's just kind of a little bit rougher. But there was a candy factory that had been there since probably 1900. And over the years, people just kept making the same exact candy that was set up to be made in that factory. They made, oh gosh, it's really popular in Nova Scotia. They're like the cinnamon, it's called like Bones. Oh, somebody help me out with this. They're like pink and they're cinnamon, and they're Bones, something Bones, and they're popular in the East Coast, but they made those there. They also had these giant copper pots. It was like Willy Wonka's it'd be like if Willy Wonka was in a Dickens novel. Chicken Bones. No, it wasn't Nutty Club. Nutty Club was there though, and actually I got to ride down the Nutty Club candy slide. That was pretty fun. Chicken Bones, thank you. Yes, Chicken Bones. So it was the place that made Chicken Bones, but it looked like a dumpy factory on the outside with boarded up windows, and you went in and it was like this magical Victorian era looking factory, and all the guys working there were also 100 years old, and they'd been there stirring the same copper drums forever. And they made those 100-year-old candies there. I don't know if that factory's still there, but as an adult, I got to tour that and I got to take pictures of it. And I wish I still had the pictures because it was kind of magical in a dystopian kind of way. But it was really neat. And yeah, the Nutty Club, which they made like candy-coated peanuts and all that kind of stuff too. A little bit bigger setup. They have a big building across from the baseball stadium in Winnipeg. At least that's where it was. And that's the building I went through. And they had, when they weren't using certain floors, they had this big metal slide that spun around from the top to bottom. And it was like a stainless steel slide. And when the guy took us up to the very top floor, he said, well, you know, the best thing about working in this building is when you need to get back down, you just take the slide. And we took the candy slide like I was, you know, Willy Wonka's factory, and we slid it all the way down to the bottom on this candy slide. And then after we got to the bottom, I'm like, did we just make this slide not, you know, unsanitary? He's like, no, like, we're not using that slide right now, and it gets cleaned before it gets used, so don't worry about it. I'm like, oh, okay. Because I was imagining them dumping, like, you know, like all their candied peanuts down that thing after like a nickel fell out of my pocket going down the slide and it ending up in the candy. Speaking of coins inside, I was telling my son this, I was telling Jason this the other day. I know his name. That I have a distinct memory, and you guys tell me if you remember this too, where you would go to a birthday party and somebody's mom would wash coins and bake them into the cake, into the birthday cake, and then serve the chokeable coins up in the cake. Does anybody else remember that? Am I the only one that remembers a period of time when people would stick coins and currency inside of a cake? I remember, because you'd take a bite and you'd be like, no, I got a quarter in mine, and you'd spit it out. But see, as Mexico still does it? Oh my gosh. Yeah, you guys remember that? Somebody says, no. Yeah, they seriously stuck. No, like the birthday parties I went to, they mixed it in the batter and baked the cake, and it could be at any point or any bite, you might end up with a coin in your cake. And if you were really lucky, you would get a big coin. Like maybe they'd put $1 silver or something special in there. And then the rest was like quarters, dimes, and nickels and pennies and stuff. But yeah, I remember going to my friend's house and the mom was at the sink and she was washing all the coins up. And I was like, oh, how come your mom's washing money? And she's like, oh, it's to put in the birthday cake. They still do it in king's cakes and in Christmas puddings. Nah, that seems like a choking hazard to me. That seems not great. Oh, look, Wizard's Crown PC game is at $30 right now. I just saw it jump up $5. So it's like the sort of thing somebody might want to play and stream online. $30. Have we 35? I like English auctions because they're very calm. Have we another bid for 35? No? On to the next. Then I say $10. Looking for $12.50. $12.50. Are we going to get there? Mind Control. Who doesn't want to play a game called Mind Control? $10 the bid on that right now. I forgot how many video games are going up right now. 66 Nailhead says, hey, Alex, greetings from Denmark. Your vids are great and cool. You know the guys from Cold War Motors, Strong's Garage, and Nick's Garage as well. Keep up the good work. Yeah, I know Scott, and I know all those guys, and Matt really well. In fact, I've got to have Scott and Matt over at some point. You know, it is nice to socialize with other YouTubers and not actually do YouTube video. But I have known Scott and Matt from before I had a channel. Scott had a channel. I didn't know he had a channel, but Scott had a channel long before me. And he's a very, very nice man, and he's very, very talented, especially when it comes to fiberglass work and paint. He's very talented guy. If you haven't, go and check out Cold War Motors. If you like car and automotive themed shows, you can also check out Strong's Garage, where my friend Matt has built essentially a replica 1900s automotive shop, and he works on that era of cars, like pre-war cars there. Let's see, Silent Service video game. We have a lot of video games coming up here. I guess I must not talk to human beings very much because I've been on now for like a couple hours, and apparently I still have stuff to talk about. Hopefully you guys are doing okay. I'm scrolling back and seeing where things are at. There we go. Oh, Patricia says, went to birthday parties as a child with coins baked in the birthday cake. Also baked in the English Christmas puddings. I never had that. Never had an English pudding with coins. My family wrapped the coins in wax paper, no chance of choking. Yeah, the birthday party I went to, it was full on, like you'd spit out an actual coin out of your mouth. Like it was some kind of freak magic trick. Like, how are you enjoying your cake? Well, it's pretty good. Well, guess what? Now there's a quarter in your face. And a quarter would fall out. It's like taking there's a nickel in your ear, the grandpa magic trick to the next level and having the nickel in your cake. Old baseball game here. I imagine some of these old PC games are probably still pretty fun to play. I mean, if you look at a lot of the games that are on apps right now, the graphics are no better than these 80s and 90s games, that's for sure. There's also a risk of chipping your tooth. That happened to me. Ask the 8-Ball. Oh no, you chipped your tooth. Wait, I almost turned into Jeff Goldblum. Oh no, you chipped your tooth on a birthday cake with coins in it. Yeah, I could see how that would happen because, you know, you're expecting delicious cake and instead you end up with a not so delicious coin. Coins were circulated in really dodgy ways in prisons. I will not be doing that. Yeah, that's the wrong kind of cake. And that ain't chocolate. No, I imagine I don't think it's not that the mom was smuggling the coins into the cake. Like we hear that you're low on cash, so I've smuggled you some change into your cake. It was supposed to be fun. Zork for Commodore 64. Somebody's excited that Zork is coming up. Skeeter says the older games were less violent. Yeah, I would say the first like fairly violent game was Castle Wolfenstein. That was up there. Where that kind of game had not been seen, where it was first person, it was a shooter game, and there was graphic blood. Compared to what you see nowadays, it doesn't hold a candle to what they do now. But at the time, it was groundbreaking. And I remember I had a friend who had the video game Leisure Suit Larry, and that was like, the parents, what do you kids play? Nothing. And where would you get a copy of that? There we go, Zork for Commodore. Look at the graphics on that. Some kind of creepy zombie skull woman screaming at you, a castle in the background. What fun And it looks like they built the Zork title out of the Swedish castle instructions as well, brick by brick. We were more naive back then. I didn't sleep all night after watching It. You're talking about the original It, the Tim Curry? You got that right? Tim Curry was the original It, I think. Mind you, I think he was scarier in Home Alone 2. With his big grin chasing after poor Kevin, whose parents are... I wonder if they called Child Protection Services on Kevin's parents after him being lost multiple times on a trip. That's one kid that needed a leash for going out in public because you just end up being missed. 50 mission crush for Commodore. Now we've got Gunship. We're going to move out of the video games here fairly soon. And gosh, I can't believe 1,200 of you folks are on here with me. Here's the deal. I'm going to stick it out. What should I watch until? Oh, then the comics. I want to see the comics. I am curious to see how the comics go. So maybe I'll stick through until we do the comics, and then I will let the auction continue on. So it's funny. I do read the comments on our YouTube videos, and I comment occasionally. But when you've been doing this for a while, sometimes the comments can really be disheartening. It's so funny. I heard a quote the other day where somebody said, why focus on the negative things in life where there's so many positive things to look forward to and to work on and to look forward to and to focus on. And I'm kind of the mindset, like if you read your comments in too much depth, a lot of people really turn into armchair critics and are very critical. And sure, I am not perfect. I will miss things, forget things, say things the wrong way. I'm just some guy who's sharing the stuff that I do. And so if I want to demotivate myself, I will read through all the comments. Where was I even going with this? Sometimes, oh yeah, there was a comment the other day. This is where I was going with this. I did see one comment pop up and somebody said, seems like Alex's videos are now about promoting his auction. Well, the last few were for sure. I mean, I'm a business. The YouTube is secondary to the fact that I buy and sell stuff, really. So without that, if you own a business, why wouldn't you promote your business? So it's just one of those sort of things where, yeah, when I started the YouTube channel, it was to promote my store. And when we do an auction or a sale like this, yeah, absolutely, we have to promote it and let people know what's happening. And we're not forcing anybody to be part of the auction. We say, hey, it's happening. If you like this kind of stuff, you can go. But I'm not going to say, and if you don't go, me and Fat Tony over here, we're going to show up at your house and we're going to bust some kneecaps. So no, we're not forcing anybody to go on. But I mean, on the flip side, I'm a show about buying and selling stuff. And so if you're surprised that I'm going to mention that I do have stuff for sale, that seems a little odd to me. But anyway, yeah, I'm curious to know the running total too. If somebody has it, I need to know if I've broken even yet. This is one of those auctions where we're basically just trying to get our money back on this stuff so we can put it into something else. And that's what we'll do. I remember I took a bunch of stuff to auction once and everything was selling really, really inexpensively. And I was getting really upset about it. But then I looked and everybody else's stuff was selling cheap too. And so what I did is I actually just started buying other people's stuff because the auction was flopping. And I thought, okay, well, my thing that was worth $500 sold for 50, but their thing that was 1,000 sold for 60. So let's just flip that money over. And so that's what I did. I ended up just spending basically all of the money I got from my stuff that I didn't want and bought stuff that I wanted more. You always have to have a glass half full approach to everything. And with this, the positives are I got some fun experience. I got to spend some time with my boys. I helped an elderly gentleman empty out a bunch of stuff that he'd had around his house for like 50 years that would have been challenging for him to do. And we're doing this live stream. We're chatting now. All this stuff is not in a landfill. It's going back out in circulation after 20, 30, 40, 50 years. And so a lot of good is coming from this. Even if monetarily it's going to be break even for me, a lot of good has come from it. So I'm happy for that. Does inflation worry you in the collector's market right now? It's not so much the inflation that's troubling me. It's the inflation is causing people to focus on certain other things that are more important, like food and rent and their mortgage and stuff that should be focused on. And so as a result of inflation, the value of items hasn't gone up to match inflation. So on one hand, it's a good buyer's market. So if you're doing okay and you're not as stressed about groceries, and gosh, we went out for dinner last night, just Melissa, Abigail and I, because the boys were out, and it was stupid expensive. And, you know, it's like, and I said, this is really no point coming back here because that used to be a nice dinner, a place to go for us to go for dinner out, but they've raised the price so much now that could have been a lot of groceries that would have lasted us, you know, like a week or two. So I'm not doing that. But I think that when you're making decisions about, you know, whether you're going to eat or whether you're going to buy some stuff, you're probably not going to buy the stuff. You're going to put food on the table. But that said, for those people that are still out there and able to collect and able to have fun and buy stuff as people are today, there are deals to be had. So when the market is low, it's a great time to buy. And of course, on the flip side, when everybody's doing great and the economy recovers, which will probably be in the next year or two, things will start recovering. That's a great time to sell. So yeah, it's all relative really, which is why I'm still buying stuff. I'm still actively out there looking for stuff because, it's also a good time to buy in general. Gary says 7,000. That can't be the full auction total. So that's what's sold so far. Yeah, I need to, yeah, it's not, I think that we're getting very close to the break-even mark overall of what bids have been placed, but like I said, there's a ways to go. Some nice old radios going up for sale right now, $45 on this guy. A question about what happened to the limousine. You're talking about the Daimler limousine. So I started working on the Daimler. I got it running, I got it driving, I got it stopping. And at that point, that's when I decided to stop working on it because it needed more work than the vehicle was worth. And you have to really say to yourself, is it worth me going in over my head on this project just for the sake of the project? I got it fairly far. I got it running. I drove it. It drove like a big giant car. And I went, you know what? It's time for it to go on to somebody else. It's a very pretty car. I sold it locally. I got all my money back out of it. And when you're fixing up a car, that's all you can really hope for. So I am actually moving on and working on different vehicles right now. I've got other stuff that I'm working on that's of more interest to me. And yeah, I don't think a big limousine or something like that's in my near future. $140 on the Tonka tube amp for repair. It's shifted off its chassis a little bit there, but that will be a good piece for somebody who's into vintage audio or recording, or if you're doing music, that'll be a cool piece. So there went $140. And there we go, Signet tube amplifier as it is as well. $70 on this. I'd be surprised if it doesn't get bid on again because tube amps are really very popular. Yeah, the Daimler did start and run and drive, and actually what got it running and driving was I just had to switch the positive and negative, as somebody mentioned here in the comments, that the positive and negative had to be switched. Well, we got a bit of a runaway on the Signet tube amp. Look, 190, 200, 220, 225. It's jumped a whole lot in the last little bit there. This is a good practical item that you can use and make some sweet, sweet, soulful tube-supplied music with. Great thing to hook up to an amp or through a speaker system. 250, now 275, looking for 300. Here we go. Oh my gosh, there we go. Got a bit of a runaway on this guy. Old tube amps. Apparently if you see these at a yard sale or something, worth picking up. 275, 275, last call, 275. Will it hit 300? 275. Off it goes, sold. 1940s RCA Art Deco Bakelite radio, $80 a bit on that. And it is noted as being in working condition. I plugged it on and plugged it in. Must have heard a little song come out of it. It was fairly crazy when I plugged in that one radio on the video. If you hadn't seen it, I plugged it in and it was playing like 1940s World War II. I think it was on Remembrance Day or something, but they were actually playing like old radio broadcasts from the 40s, and I happened to turn it on a 1940s radio. It was kind of surreal. 110 is the bid. 120 now on the RCA Art Deco Bakelite radio. Pretty little piece there. Nice style. Working condition. 120 the bid right now. 120 the bid, looking for 130. 130 now, looking for 140. 130 the bid now, looking for 140. $130 bid now. 140 looking for 150. 140 looking for 150. 140, will we get there? 150. 140 the bid, looking for 150. $10 more gets you the radio. Cute little radio that is. Teresa says, does anybody know anything about Alex's motorhome? That one sold. The radio sold for 140. Alex's motorhome also sold. I did a little update on that. I think in a live stream of what happened to the motorhome. Got it running, got it driving, sold it to a lovely couple, a young couple who lived in Winnipeg, and they drove the thing back. They drove it to Winnipeg. So I said, you're nuts. And he said, I'm a mechanic. I'm not worried. And I said, okay. Who am I to argue with a mechanic? And he drove the thing back. I think he said he had to do an alternator on it on the way back because the battery died about 3 hours into their trip. But beyond that, I think it actually performed pretty good. So yeah, it's going to be used for them for camping and stuff. And they were quite happy. So off it went. And I'm glad I'm not storing a giant motorhome in my yard right now. 35 now, 40. 40 is the bid. Looking for 45 on the Motorola radio. I didn't test this one. I think, was this battery operated? I don't remember why I didn't test it. But anyway, it's untested. $40 a bid on that. Looks like vintage radios are still doing okay. Some interest there. Large lot of vintage computer programming books. These would be like the books on programming your own video games or basically understanding these old systems. $35 the bid right now. 35 is the bid. Looking for 40. 35 is the bid. Looking for $40. Steve says, when it comes to old video games, the original Pong was violent, ... when you didn't share with your sister. Yeah, I could see that. Many an argument probably started over a video game. I do play games with my kids on occasion too. $45 a bid right now, looking for 50. 45 is the bid, looking for 50. 45 is the bid. 50, now 50. Looking for 60. It jumps up $10 when it hits $50. So it's $10 bids after that. $50 bid. Now 60. Graham says, I have that machine language book on the left. Got it in 1988 for college. Yeah, probably some of this stuff would still work. I see there's an old Macintosh language and computation book. So some interesting stuff in there. $70. Again, this is what's interesting about this type of collectible is that if you're into this stuff, it is kind of hard to find. In fact, you used to have information on cassettes, and that's what those are. They're the Commodore VIC-20, and then you've got the cassette, and that was like basically instead of using a floppy disk, you could put your video game or whatever on a cassette. Real different way of storing stuff on a video game system back then. $80 a bid right now. $80 a bid, so you get the computer, you get some accessories with it. Looks like there's a floppy disk drive in there too, from what I can see. $90 a bid. Can you sell as many cars as you like in Alberta? Do you have to have a dealer's license? No, you're allowed to sell, I think, if you have the vehicle registered, you can only sell, I think, is it two vehicles a year, maybe something like that. And generally, well, if you own all your cars and have them registered, I don't think it really matters. If I had to sell my entire collection all at once. But yeah, if you're selling regularly, you'd be considered a dealer. But I think that there are other collectors who are just collectors, kind of like I am. And, you sell something and trade up and get something else. And, like with the Daimler, we just got our money back. It wasn't a money-making thing, but it was fun to work on while I had it. Here's another large lot of books. See Mario Brothers on the front of that. Arcade games, T1 games, $50, $60. I didn't know if these computer books would be popular, but I guess so. $70 now bid. Looking for 80. Oh, Terry, you're welcome. I am trying to answer questions as we go here too, and there's a lot of times when I miss something, I don't mean to, but I'm looking at the screen and watching the auction at the same time. So sometimes I'll miss a comment that pops up. $80 bid, now 90, 90 now looking for $100, $90 bid looking for 100. When is the auction from yesterday's video? You're on the auction from yesterday's video. This is live. That auction from yesterday's video is happening right now. That is this auction. You can log into kauctions.ca, look for the Curiosity, this one, Curiosity Retro Collectibles Auction. That's this sale right here. Does it scare everybody with having a human hand suddenly appear on the screen? Oh, look, that's my right hand. You never see that one because it's usually holding the camera. So you can log on and bid right now. There's a whole bunch of Commodore cassette programs. I was just talking about those a second ago. $22.50 off. It went. Large lot of antiques children's books. Some interesting looking graphics on there. We got G.I. Joe. We've got... oh, that went. Oh, here's a box. Here we go. Getting into the comic books now. Big box of assorted superhero comics. You got Spider-Man and stuff. And I believe these are from the 70s to the 90s. $100 is the bid right now. Looking for 110. $100 bid. Looking for 110. Last call and looking for 110. Will she get outbid? No, she won it. $25 on the lot of Archie comics. Truth be told, and I'm not too proud to admit this, that I was more of a reader of Archie comics and more of a fan of Jughead. So... there you go. I've outed myself as an Archie comic reader as a youth. Here we go. The Man Called Morbius, the Living Vampire. So they did make a Morbius movie. I don't think it did super well, but we've got no bids on those. $7.50 gets you a vintage comic book. We've got some of the classic books that'll be coming up. And a lot of these, there's an early Millie the Model, cheerleading Millie style. I remember I had some of my mom's old comic books and there was always like a Millie the Model or something bid through there. Is there a value limit on what Caster is willing to sell? For instance, can you put through? Yeah, you can put through any value of item. I know that they've sold like $100,000 diamond rings and stuff in the past, but I've never put I have sold some very expensive stuff through. Yeah, they'll sell whatever. But you take a big risk putting some stuff like that through, especially if you put it through with no reserve. Interesting fact about these old sort of romance comic books. Lichtenstein, Roy Lichtenstein, very famous artist. A lot of his artwork looks just like these sort of comic book covers. And from what I understand, his daughter said to him, I don't remember what he was doing. He had a normal job at the time. He wasn't an artist. She said, "Dad, I bet you couldn't paint a painting to look like the cover of my comic book." And he said, "I bet I could." And then he did. He did little pixelated dots and he made it just look like the comic and he did a big one. And he did that kind of to prove to his daughter that he could paint just like the comic book. And somebody saw it and ended up going on display. And then that, of course, turned into a very famous art career for him where he ended up basically making a career out of comic book style pop art. But it all started with these old romance comic books that he took an image from and even the little talk bubble and basically replicated that artwork onto canvas and saw the art that it was and got extremely popular. In fact, they have some really massive Lichtenstein artwork in Manhattan in an office tower downtown. And of course, the Museum of Modern Art. But yeah, you never know where inspiration is going to come from, sometimes from the cover of a romance comic book. Dennis the Menace #1. So it's the first issue of this series with Marvel. Now, Dennis the Menace has been around for a really long time, but that would be the first Marvel Dennis the Menace. So $22.50 is a bit on that. Yeah, again, sometimes my my somewhat facts or whatever knowledge I have floating in my head is more or less accurate, but I'm sure there's more to the story or less to the story. But you know, this is just floating around in my brain, so. I apologize if I don't get every fact correct there. Virginia says, I just ordered Lichtenstein stamps from the post office. Are they pre-Lichten or do you have to lick them yourself? Yuck, yuck. Wagga, wagga. Oh, you know, when you're inspired by the humor of Fozzie Bear, Lichten stamps. That's funny to me. There we go. So 10-cent Tarzan, that date to the 50s. There we go. $7.50 for the Men at War. Great artwork on a lot of these. Really appreciate the artwork on these guys. Oh, and I'm getting a lot of the rolly eye sort of looks and people annoyed with the dad jokes. Yes, I'm sorry. But when that thought comes into my brain, I got to get it out. Otherwise, I'm going to unleash that on my children later. So we're going to stick through the comic books and watch and see how these do. So far, $7.50 is $5.50 US. So $5 for a nice old comic book. That's not a bad price. It's always the Marvel, so we've got Ghost Rider and Spider-Man and stuff coming. Those generally do a little bit better. Let's see. Dad jokes rule. Yeah, one of our, let's see. What sort of things is Alex buying? Well, I mentioned earlier, for those of you that are still on from earlier, that I'm still actively buying Redline Hot Wheels. I'm still actively buying higher-end wristwatches. So men's wristwatches I'm still buying. I mean, I'm buying large collections, obviously clear, but stuff that I'm seeking out actively would be like coin collections, old Hot Wheel cars. Let's see, just kind of fun stuff. Sometimes old comic books as well. I'm always looking for something neat. Oh, there's a Flintstones. Oh, look at their umbrella. They're using the wings. I like how the animals were always just so happy to be supportive of the humans, to be used as an umbrella or carburetor or whatever they ended up using them for. Happy as a clam. Actually, I remember them complaining a little bit sometimes. Because wasn't their phone like a parrot? I feel like it just like relayed the phone call as it heard it. 10-cent Disney Pluto comic. $10 is the bid on that. Might be staying in Alberta. Last call, $10. I see the chat on the video has gone towards copywritten images used on stamps and how don't use them. But it used to always be that they would hire artists to do stamps and the coins and all that. So occasionally you see where they'll do specialty stamps and specialty coins that'll have commissioned artwork on it. And also you'll see them where they have like a random Spider-Man 25-cent piece or whatever it is, just as a specialty thing. So I guess, I don't know. I'm sure they've got their reasons. 10-cent Walt Disney Comics, $7.50. So Willie the Wise Guy, look, he's spraying them with the hose. And instead of moving out of the way of his hose, they're going to rent the umbrella for 10 cents. It's a very, whitewashing the fence take on that. But I hadn't heard of Willie the Wise Guy, but that's an old comic, 10 cents, that's going back, and it's got the, when you see it, it says approved by the Comic Authority, it's an old book. $25. Skeeter asks, do my kids collect anything? My son, Jason, he likes building and does have a collection of Lego. My daughter, Abigail, is collecting like running shoes lately. She's into like the Jordans and the Nike Dunks and all that. She's into shoes. Steven isn't really collecting a whole lot right now. He's collecting art supplies. And he's trying to collect money because he's, a teenager with a girlfriend and expenses. And so I'm not saying that she's the expense, but he likes to go out and they want to go do stuff. And you know what it's like to be in a relationship and want to have money. So Steven's more collecting money right now so he can live his life and have experiences. But they all have a little something. He still does have a coin collection. So my eldest son, Steven, was collecting ancient coins for a while, and he still does have that collection, and he still looks at it and likes it. So I'm sure if we came across ancient coins, again, he'd still have an interest in that. And that's the sort of thing that I imagine when he's an adult, he'll go back to collecting again. Linda says she collects dust. I think we all do a little bit of that. Pizza size ammonite buffalo stone. Spider-Man 300 is not in this auction. I have that actually sitting right next to me. I didn't put that one through, but I think 301 and 302 and some of the other early Venom sort of Spider-Man comics are here, and those are going up. So Ghost Rider #2 coming up. Ghost Rider actually started off as a Western series where he was on a horse, and then he turned into the motorcycle, and it went through a few different iterations. And A lot of times they'll repeat the series. So in this case, they would have started over at 1 again after they'd had several series out. So it's the second one of that issue or that series. Yeah, it's a little too easy to collect dust, it seems. That seems to be one of the main things. $30 for the Ghost Rider comic. Yeah, Spider-Man 300. There are key issues are what people are generally looking for. There's a first issue out of that series of Marvel's Ghost Rider. That would be more like the Ghost Rider that Nicolas Cage played, I think, kind of out of that series. $15 a bit on that. Or is he more in the 1970 series? I think he had a Harley, didn't he? But it was around that time anyway. I never really did get into the Nicolas Cage's Ghost Rider. Nothing against him as an actor. It's just he's really great in some roles and I don't know. You got to like him in certain things, and I don't know. I didn't get into the Ghost Rider series, but I sure did like that motorcycle. First issue Warlock in the Infinity Watch. I always second guess when they say collector's issue on the front cover. It generally isn't, unless something really momentous happened in the comic book. In that case, Marvel 300, which was an anniversary issue, was the first, I guess, plot twist of having Venom in that, and that's why that's kind of a more expensive book. With comic books, it's generally the story or the characters that drive the value of a comic. Sometimes the cover art, but more often than not, it's what's happening in that character arc, and that's why things like Richie Rich and Archie and that don't really ever have the same kind of value that you get out of the superhero books, because superhero books, they have a long character arc. There's certain things that develop, there's certain characters that are introduced, and so that'll drive up the value of a comic book. Where Archie, it's like they had their characters, and it's like in today's episode, they visit Mr. Weatherby's office, and Archie's in trouble and his car is broken down. So that it's not like you're gonna go, I got to get that issue where his car broke down, because that was pretty much every issue. So superhero comics typically have a little bit more of that folklore built into them, a little bit more of that mythology, and so people collect and pay better money for special issues where more important things happened. Skeeter says, I started collecting World War II items that I found on Wake Island, Japanese and American stuff. Cool. It's fun to collect stuff that you find too. And I think everybody at some point in their life starts off collecting rocks, where you're just a little kid and you walk along and you see a little sparkle in a rock and you go, that's neat. And, actually, it's one thing I'm trying to find is I'd like to find an actual crystal ball, like a really clear crystal ball. Can't find one locally. I don't know how easy they are to find. So I'm keeping my eyes open for one of those. Eventually, I've learned if I'm patient enough, it will eventually come back around. But that is something I wouldn't mind having. Sally says, it looks like having the separate sorting room is working. Yeah. The problem with having it in our garage when we were sorting stuff in the garage, especially in winter, is that when you have a vehicle in there and then the snow starts to melt off, all your boxes can get wet. So then you got to raise everything up and you can't put it on the floor. So it's actually working out really well to have the sorting space over there. It's been invaluable, actually. I'm glad that we have it. And we have a little space there, more the living room kind of area where we can hang out and even utilize it for other stuff. So crystal balls are available online. Yeah, that's true. I guess I could just, bite the ball. I want to get a nice one though. 2 large crystal balls at an antique mall in Syracuse. Interesting. I guess maybe I'll have to go visit some antique malls in New York next time I'm back that way. I want one that has a good future in store though too. So then there's that. That's trickier to find one. X-Men with the first. So this is considered a key issue because Bishop, which is a recurring character, this is the first time he appeared. So $10 on that. First Silver Sable in the Spider-Man, and nobody's bid on that one yet. There we go, $7.50. So we've got a few little books to go here, and appreciate all you guys sticking with me on this live feed. Gosh, I don't know who's going to watch this after the fact. It's like a 3-hour long live chat, but we're basically just sticking on, I guess, until we get down to the end of the comic books, and then that'll be that for the live feed today. Patty asked, did you send any in for grading? No, not yet. I don't think any of them were in good enough shape that it was worthwhile sending off for grading. The graders are very, very fussy. And so, you really got to, you have to be confident that you have a good copy. Otherwise, they'll grade it very low. So no, I didn't send any off for grading. I did keep a couple back that I might send in, but we'll see. It's not cheap sending stuff in for grading anymore. Which computer no, the computer hasn't come up yet, I don't think. People are asking about the Wozniak computer, I guess. That's there, like, if you look, there is a ton of stuff. There's toys, there's more comics, there's Coca-Cola collectibles, there's, this auction's going to be on basically for the, probably another several hours. So I'd encourage anybody who's watching right now, if you're curious to see, just leave it on in the background like I have it on right now. You can just leave it on and watch stuff end. And that's what I usually do. And then maybe something might strike your fancy. But yeah, a lot of this stuff is, actually it's all going to sell today. Yeah, let's see. Number 3, you can hear my voice going distant. I kept back, out of the books I kept, so I kept back Spider-Man 361, which is the first Carnage issue. These are actually nice enough shape that I could send it out. This one's not bad. That's the first appearance of Venom, your quasi-evil Spider-Man, so I have that. The issue before that was technically the first Venom, but they consider 300 the real first. And then you've got your first black costume, I think, on a cover. So there are a few key issues that I might send in that I've been hanging on to. Oh, this one I hung on to just because I thought it was cool. This Hot Rodder comic. It's not really worth anything, Teenage Hot Rodders, but I really like the artwork on it. So I thought maybe I might frame that and put it up in the garage or something. So not a whole pile of comics that I hung on to. It's one of those things. That's weird. I thought I had some... I swear I had some Silver Age comic books I had kept back too, but what did I do with those? Pretty bad when I can't keep track of my own stuff sitting around the house here. Oh, my friend is texting me in the background. My friend Scott is where I wish Scott had a YouTube channel. He's a very interesting guy. He's camera shy. Well, I would say he's camera shy. I don't know. He doesn't like being on camera. But he's a very good mechanic, and I've known him and been friends with him for years, and he's always working on some kind of cool cars. But he's trying to get a old Rolls Royce up and running right now. And so he's just writing me, telling me, not running yet. The Silver Age stuff, Mackie Mintle, is in this auction. In fact, some of the other Silver Age stuff is going to be at an auction, at a separate auction. I don't know why they separated it out, but they did. So pretty much all the Silver Age stuff is probably still yet to come. But, like we've got the 15-cent Supermans, and there's some Spider-Man and stuff. So there is some good books going up. There we go. Spawn comic number 1, $40 a bit on that right now. So if you've logged in, it's actually really easy to do. It's just kauctions.ca. And yeah, you can just log right in and watch it just like we're watching it. And you can bid. There's an old Nick Fury 12-cent cover, $7.50. It's not in the greatest shape, obviously, but it is a Silver Age Marvel comic. A cool thing to have. I do really like the artwork on these old comics, I will say. I shouldn't keep calling them comics because true comic collectors call them books. And that always kind of like, I don't know. I was always like, really? It's not a book. But anyway, they call them books. When they say I collect books, then you go to their house and it's a bunch of comic books. $12.50 the bid on that. It's going up there a little bit. We're going to get into some of the Silver Age superhero comic books in a minute here. This is going to have a neat cover. $7.50. He's turned into a werewolf. He's changing into an ape. Usually that happens after the honeymoon. We're all on our best behavior until after we get married, and then it's like, well, I got one. Trust me, she's having Every woman's nightmare, finding out her man is turning into a gorilla. $12.50 the bid right there. Okay, GI Combat. This is a 10-cent cover. Usually the 10-cent stuff is early 60s or before. $7.50. Yeah, for me, the reason why I use Castner, a couple things. It's local. They have a place for me to store all this stuff. They take care of all the shipping and packing and the customer service side of things. All I have to do is find this stuff and take it down there. And so it makes my life really easy, and it makes doing what I do doable. Without an auction house in town, it would be challenging. Or I wouldn't be able to buy in the same quantity that I buy in. It would just take up way too much time. And Gretch Armstrong says, are you their biggest client? I'm certainly one of their biggest clients. They also deal with industrial auctions and kitchen clearouts. So I'm sure they have bigger clients in the sense that they're selling, like warehouses full of fridges and kitchen and restaurant equipment. But as a single individual consigner with this type of stuff, yeah, I'm probably their biggest consigner that does this type of stuff. And yeah, to your point, if something doesn't sell, it will pop up again at the end of the auction and give it one last try. They'll try running it through automatically, I think a couple more times today. And if it doesn't get bids, a lot of times it does. If it doesn't get bids, it will pop back up again at a future sale. Superman 240. Look, Superman looks distraught. Oh, because he's read the paper. There's never any good news in the paper. Look, even he has criticism. That's like the first form of social media. He gave into his haters. Superman fails, and he's like, I just can't read these. Ugh. That's why you never read your comments on YouTube, because you'll look like Superman does there. Not saying I'm Superman, but look at his face. That's what it feels like to be a YouTuber and go read through your comments. 15-cent Superman, lowest lane number 94. Yeah, Skeeter says the paper has 5 pages now. It's so thin. I was surprised. Like I saw a newspaper was out, and it's like it's all ads, and it's only like seriously 10 or 15 pages, and it's just ads. I'm like, wow, how the paper has changed. Where we get our news has changed a lot. Journey into Mystery Comic. What a great cover. Good artwork on that. Looks like she had her flannel and she was out for just a nice little hike, and then that dude picked her up, the Abominable Snowman. He's got a middle part. And he's got an Abe Lincoln beard. That's an odd choice of artwork. They gave the Abominable Snowman an Abe Lincoln beard. $22.50 is the bid. All he needs is a top hat. Here we go. No, Superman. They belong to your past. I'm the present. Stay with me. The 3 super sirens trying to... Why did they... mermaid, I don't get it. You never run into a sailor who's like, oh, yes, I married a mermaid once, but she was only fish from the top up. You don't get the reverse mermaid where it's it's just a fish with human legs. Marvel Fear X number 2, $12.50. I don't get the appeal of a woman who's, I guess maybe she can swim really well. Mermaid never was really a thing. People in cheap seats always heckle those in the arena. Mad Magazine was another. Yeah, my dad used to read Mad Magazine when he was a kid. And then every Christmas, up until, I would say recently, my mom and my dad, and sometimes my mom, would buy a Mad Magazine. I don't know where they were buying them from. I guess they still must sell them at the newsstand. But they would buy a Mad Magazine, and it would end up, I should say Santa would put it in my Christmas stocking. But Mad Magazine played a big role. Oh, these stickers aren't actually on the comic books, by the way. These are all in plastic bags, so the stickers are on the plastic bag. It should be noted that no sticker was placed on a comic book cover. Yeah, Superman at the Gates of Hell. That'd be an interesting read. $12.50. Looking for 15. Will it get there? Must have been hard being a writer or artist for a comic book series like that, because you got to come up with something new. Were these weekly or like monthly that they'd come out? How many issues they would do? But you constantly, like, gosh, anybody who read Archie comics knows that they just recycled old past stories and just smushed them into a new comic. You get like one new story, and then you'd notice that Archie was like, you know, it was the 1940s artwork mixed in. You'd be like, wait a minute, how old are these stories? Or Jughead's buying hamburgers for like 25 cents. You're like, wait a minute, I feel like they're recycling this story. They wouldn't even update the dollar amounts to make sense. 12-cent Superman. And he's stirring up a pink storm over there, $10. So we've got another... Okay, we're on the Superman now. We got another Superman there. Love the artwork. Monthly, Graham says. Yeah, that would make sense. Because that'd be an awful lot of work to do issues if it was beyond monthly. But still, even monthly, that's a lot of... You got to do the storyboard. You got to do the art. You got to get it approved and printed and out. It's a fair bit of work. Jim Lee cover. Captain America, Black Widow for the first time. $15 a bit on that. I love the ads in the old comics. I still love the ads in old magazines. Yeah, that's true. X-ray goggles, snappy gum. Did anybody ever have that gum where it looked like it was a real pack of gum and it had a spring in it and it would snap on your finger? You know, the one thing that's changed is in old comic books. Oh, somebody's just asking a question. Mark's Garage. 10-cent comic would be like 1960, early 60s or prior. 12-cent would be like 1960s era. Then they went to 15 cents kind of in the late 60s. So that kind of gives you a rough idea. Yeah. Sea monkeys, which were like a type of freeze-dried shrimp, I think. I remember what I was talking about. We were talking about comic book ads. Oh, yeah. They used to actually have ads that it was always like, she's too skinny, she needs to put on weight. And it was like how girls could gain weight and how guys were too skinny and getting sand kicked in their face on the beach. The world was about putting on weight at that time. My, how times have changed. But yeah, I guess food was different. People were more active, so you didn't have the same sort of issues, I guess, that we run into now. But yeah, you look at those ads and a lot of it was body shaming people that were too skinny. Oh yeah, you had the other ads, so sea monkeys we see a lot of, Charles Atlas, yeah. You'd also have the army men with the parachute. I wonder if anybody ever like ate their sea monkeys. It was like, well, shrimp, and added it to a salad or something. Where did my sea monkey family go, Mom? You're eating it. There are some nice old comics in there. Some vintage 20-cent and probably 70s. 42 comic books, $17.50. And we've got just a few more auctions we're going to stick with, and then I'm going to call it a day. So there's Submariner #1, but that's kind of the second run of Submariner, but it is the first issue there. $35 for that lot. So that's like roughly $1 a comic, a little more than $1 now. $40 a bid. But it's been fun chatting with everybody. And fun talking to you all. And thank you so much for the likes. I appreciate you guys have given a thumbs up to the video. In our last few minutes here, if you haven't given the video a thumbs up, you can do that. And we'll see if we can surpass the 1,000 mark for the thumbs up. Somebody said that Jakota, my friend, might have eaten a sea monkey. I'll have to ask him about that. And yeah, really appreciate everybody sticking with us. $50 a bit on these comic books right now. Oh, yeah. My sense of smell is like 80% now. Melissa has a really good sense of smell. Mine is still not fully back to where it needs to be. 35 vintage Superman comics assorted, $20 on that. So this auction is going to continue on. There are still hours left to go. And we made it there. So guys, thank you so much for watching. Oh, I guess, hang on. Why am I turning it this way? Hang on, let me figure this out here. Oh, look, it's me. I'm here. So a few takeaways, guys. The auction is going to continue on. You can place your bids. If you want to just watch even from home, you can log into kauctions.ca and you can just watch the auction as well. And we are, going to call it a day for the live stream. But guys, thank you so much for all attending the live stream. Again, if you have things that you want to sell and you're in the Edmonton area, I'd be happy to come to your house, have a look. Still buying collections, both big and small. I'm also actively looking for old Hot Wheel cars. So if you have a case of Hot Wheels at home And you might go, oh, Alex, I think I got some of those down in the basement. Well, give me an email because I will happily buy this stuff from you. Also buying nice wristwatches, vintage watches and that as well. So curiosityedmonton@gmail.com. That's our email. And guys, have a wonderful day. Auction's going to continue on, but as for me, I'm going to go and rest my vocal cords and see if my son Jason's home. See you guys soon. And as always, bye for now. Bye, everybody.